While the home crumbles into chaos, a young girl fights to stay afloat. Her mom is dying, her dad stays cold and distant, and her little sister lashes out nonstop. The family's life crumbles little by little, until it all snaps into a deadly tragedy they can't escape. After rebirth, Ridbald refuses to wait on fate. He grabs the wheel himself, swears to live with honor, and vows to pull his family back from the brink of destruction. With his new power, he doesn't just survive. He steals his younger sister's heart, stunning her with strength she never thought she'd see. By winning the respect of everyone around him, the hero boldly declares, "I'm going to reshape the future, no doubt about it." Taking a breath at work, Candace suddenly flashes back. Just a few days back, a coworker urged him to try an automate-style game. Even with a few doubts hanging in the air, the guy finally said yes to the experiment. Then the girl slides in, all curiosity blazing, desperate to see what her own game left him thinking. Kanda can't hide his excitement. He blasted through the whole game, had an absolute blast, and even when he tried to stop, he just couldn't tear himself away from the character training mode. Even with the fatigue weighing him down and those dark circles under his eyes, pride in his work blazes across his face. Constant parties and late nights at the office never stop him from juggling it all in the non-stop chaos of a sales agent's life. A simple life brings him real joy. Games and anime light up his days with bright colors, and after crushing work, that well-earned rest hits like the sweetest gift. Strength drained out of Candide, and he crumpled right in the middle of the street. Then, as his consciousness slipped away, the only thing that flashed in his mind was his mother's face, the one who'd been gone for years. Canda's body finally snapped. He woke up in a strange bed, blinking in total confusion as he stared around. He jolts his eyes open to a ceiling he's never seen, and awe slams into fear. For a blink, all he remembers is blacking out while he waited for the light to change. Then he's here, somewhere unknown, and it hits him piece by piece. His whole life has just been flipped. Staring into the mirror, Candace snaps rigid with terror, because in the glass, a child's body stares back at him. He blinks, checks his tiny hands like they're evidence, and tries to make sense of it, but he can't. He has no idea whose face he's wearing. Out of nowhere, a maid storms into the room and blurts, "Rita-sama." And the shock hits harder when he realizes he's not just confused, he's been transformed into someone else entirely. Trapped in a kid's body, Kanda told himself his body was fine, but the crowd of strangers pressing in around him turned his confusion into full-blown panic. A man strode into the room and introduced himself politely as Garn, the butler. Then he said everyone was frantic after the host collapsed out in the garden. Kanda stayed cool, thanked him for the concern, and promptly apologized for how he'd acted. Sandy forces himself to act normal, but the second he speaks, his words leave everyone around him totally baffled. Harn drops a sincere thanks, then pushes for you to keep calling him by his name. Canada is left completely stunned. Confusion everywhere, and even the unexpected noble attitudes from every side only make it feel more impossible, because nothing around them makes sense, and the situation keeps careening out of control. A brutal jolt of pain rips through Canda's head, and a flood of brand-new memories smashes into his mind. Then it clicks. This body isn't his anymore. It belongs to Baldi. The memories of Kanda Hajam's boring office life are still there, but he grips the truth anyway. Something reborn has happened. A new personality flickers to life in front of him, and little by little, the reality of where he is and what's happened starts to sink in. He got reborn inside the Atom game world of Tokyorella, the one he used to obsess over like crazy, and that's where a side character named Ridbaldia was waiting. A servant for some treacherous aristocrat, then it hits him like a punch. He's become that character, the side villain in someone else's tale, while the heroine owns the spotlight. The moment the summoned maid spoke, the whole room went still with anticipation. Ridring took that pause and chose his next move, wearing calm-like armor, then feigned total indifference as he asked about his own age, as if he were trying to figure out what his life truly meant. After blurting the wrong number, he claims he's 7. Then the maid snaps back that he only just turned 6. The boy freezes, scrambles to fix it, and realizes in real time how brutally hard it is to hold onto his new identity. Reed grabs the moment and questions the maid about the country and her own family. She answers, "We're in the Empire of Magnolia, not far from where representatives of other races live." The Baldia family is an ancient aristocratic line that lives by one rule: stay neutral in every political storm. The boy grows up under the same roof with his father, Rianur, his mother, Nanali, and his little sister, Melody. With every clue finally stacked in his hands, Rid snaps into the truth. He really has been reborn into a game world called Takarella. Rid tries to show the maid kindness, but the moment he meets her eyes, real fear hits him like a punch. So he can't stop wondering what kind of person his predecessor was, and what they did to make everyone react like that. Suddenly, blazing memories crash into him so hard he drops to his knees, choking for air, and panic detonates as people scatter and shout his name like it's cursed. It hits Rid's mind like lightning. Back then, he probably crushed people with his harsh attitude, so this maid's fear is totally earned. He steadies himself, flashes a gentle smile, and apologizes, then asks her name. "Don AI," she says, and the moment he hears it, Rid lights up and praises her, because wow, what a truly beautiful name. Rid's sudden softness hits her right in the heart, and she can't wait to say yes and serve him. The morning kicks off with Don AI popping in to wake Reed with a grin that screams excitement, and Reed, still half asleep, goes dead still when he realizes the girl is standing right there in her maid uniform. When she offered to help him get dressed, he stumbled through a quick, awkward refusal, face burning, because right before that, he'd been totally caught off guard by how she looked. Over breakfast, Reed can't stop admiring the royal luxury of aristocratic life. But the massive table makes the loneliness hit like a punch, pure isolation, staring back at him. When they corner Garn about where everyone's gone, he fires back. His father's stuck in the capital, his mother's sick and laid up, and his younger sister's somewhere on the estate. So the family decides they'll go see Melody later and finally get the truth about how she's doing. With Doni at his side, he storms into his mother's room, Nunalia Baldia, and one thought keeps screaming in his head. Her name was never spoken once in the game. The silence makes him obsessed, because who is she really? As Rida neared the door, a jittering dread crawled up his spine. What if someone was waiting for him right on that threshold? And the closer he got to his mother's room, the weirder it felt, like his own body was warning him. Something wasn't right in this place. Don AI watches her sickness change him, and she realizes he's been dodging their meetings ever since. And that shocks him, because deep down it feels like they haven't run into each other for an eternity. Even now, you can feel it in the air. Something massive went down between them. Suddenly, a voice crackles from the other side of the door, inviting him inside. The moment Rid crosses the threshold, Nanali Baldia's gentle smile lights up. She's tucked in bed, grinning like he never left, and her voice pours out warmth and tenderness, as if that long separation never even happened. His mother's smile opens up a whole ocean of brand new experiences for Reed, ones he hasn't even touched yet, so he freezes in confusion, and then his legs give out, dropping him hard to his knees, even though he can't quite grasp what just happened to him. A tear-streaked stare spills his real thoughts, because the feelings tied to Riddom and Nanali aren't new at all, they're buried in the past. He snaps into action, rushing to his mother as she gasps and coughs for breath, firing off frantic questions about whether she's going to be okay. She beams with real relief, rushes to reassure him that she's genuinely glad he's okay, then whispers her thanks for coming, especially after hearing he only fainted in the garden and is fine now. In that warm, trusting moment, they trade honest, gut-wrenching words like they're racing to reclaim every lost second of distance. And with a confident grin, Rid finally declares that he's doing perfectly. With a swaggering smile, he proudly claims he's the son of the Marquise and the Marquis of Mars. Then he gently thanks her at the farewell, and promises he'll be back again soon. Nanella's grin flared even brighter when she saw her son's mood turn around. Then, as he walked out, Rid felt it deep in his chest. With Garner at his side, he could take on anything that came next. With the truth about his mom burning in his heart, Rid pushes Garn to finally spill everything, every detail, about Nanali's illness. Even after all the begging, Garn refuses at first, until he spots Riddy's real grit and unshakable loyalty, and then he finally cracks. Still, before he spills the truth about his illness, he makes one demand: keep it secret. Finally, Garn drops the bombshell diagnosis: mono-deficiency syndrome. Rit freezes, stunned, trying to wrap her head around just how heavy this news really is. The moment he realizes how rare, and how deadly, his mother's illness is, it hits him like a truck. The sickness is tied straight to the life energy of this world itself. Garn explains that when mana deficiency strikes, it wipes out the vital energy they call mana. Then regeneration vanishes for good, and year by year the body crumbles so relentlessly that death finally comes. An incurable disease, one everyone treats like a death sentence and a brutal punishment, hits Rid hard because it screams the same nightmare ailment from the game, Takarella. With his own library finally proving useless, he bolts for the great library of the estate, desperate to dig up any extra clues he can. Ryder finally locks eyes with his little sister, Melody. She's got a shy look, but her curiosity practically sparkles. and she nervously asks if she can stay close, quietly terrified her brother might snap. Stunned by the girl's sudden softness, Reed grins and waves her over, urging them to flip through an illustrated book together. And before long, a real bond starts to bloom between them. When Quality hears that Reed is about to read to her, her excitement explodes, and she rushes over, slams the door shut, and makes sure his request is carried out. Reed scoots next to Melody, cracks open a kid's book and reads out loud. And when the magic words start flowing, Melody leans in, hanging on every single syllable. Right then, their sibling bond blooms, soft and effortless. Spending time with Melody hits Reed like a wave, smashing open old memories from the past. When he thinks back to the day his sister was born, warmth hits him like sunlight. He couldn't stop smiling, completely stunned she'd finally arrived. Then sickness crashed the moment. His mother's illness twisted joy into anxiety, and that fear turned into rage that spilled onto Melody. Now he finally gets it. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone, he was just a kid, desperately guarding his own heart and throwing his panic at the people closest to him. In Reed's memories, you can feel it. Slowly, an invisible wall climbed between him and Melody until even sitting at the same table, they couldn't reach each other anymore. Snuggled up beside him, he blurts out an apology, and Melody swats the mood with a joke, telling him he really shouldn't be sleeping out in the garden, before the two of them crack up and fill the air with warm, friendly laughter. Reed slowly starts to realize Melody isn't just charming, she's downright wise, and as time passes, that shattered bond between them starts healing itself. Melody flashes a sweet, gentle smile and tells Reed to call her just Mel. She does it just like their mother, and the reason is simple. He matters to her deeply. That surprise hits Reed hard, and he doesn't hold back. He thanks her from the heart and swears he'll cherish that nickname forever. Melody finally dozes off, slumped against Reed, and a wave of unexpected wonder hits him in this peaceful quiet. Then Denai, with a soft smile, creeps closer and tucks Melody in carefully so she stays warm and snug. Garn shows up and asks if Reed is with her. Reed just shoots a silent look like, "SHH, we stay quiet." Reed tells Garn he kept reading the illustrated book Melody until she finally drifted to sleep. And when Garn hears that, a grateful smile lights up her face as she begs him to keep looking after his sister just like that. Reed flashes a proud, warm smile and says, "Of course I'll help, because you're my little sister." After Reed fainted in the garden, Garn clocks something terrifying, like his whole soul got swapped. Stunned and visibly on edge, Reed scrambles to mask what he's really feeling, trying to figure out what changed inside him. As the hero pauses and looks back, it hits him. He's changed, and not for the better. Strict, cold, and distant where he used to be warmer. That crushing weight of responsibility presses down on his shoulders, but determination flares inside him, refusing to let him back down. When Reed finally meets his mother and Melody, everything clicks. His real purpose snaps into focus. In the game Takarella, he got dragged into a villainous scheme, and the price was brutal: exile, public condemnation, maybe even death. But now he's been handed a shot at rewriting his fate, and he refuses to let that fatal ending repeat. The only thing that stands between him and survival is how fast he moves and how smart he stays, using strategy and ruthless caution. Reed snaps and decides to grab fate by the throat, cooking up a brilliant plan, so he can dodge the crushing endings that keep wiping people out in this game. By winning over the very characters who were supposed to be exiled, doomed, or outright killed, then steering clear of the same deadly tracks. Stranded far from the capital, where these characters normally show up, he has no one to lean on but himself, and it hits him. If he wants to survive and rewrite his fate, he'll have to grind, level up his skills, and earn his way to power. Seeing his sick mother again, he got slammed by the same crushing feelings from back then, sorrow so deep it hurt, and helplessness that left him powerless, emotions that still clung to his heart. The crushing realization that his mother was fading no matter what tore him open inside, and it poisoned the way he loved the people around him. But then it hit him. If he could mend those family ties, he might dodge the judgment looming over him and finally carve out a real shot at a sincere, happy life. Reed rips open the memory of his past, and it burns. His chest clenches with crushing regret for how little he'd ever valued his mother's love before she was gone. When she died, the unbearable pain of being powerless carved a permanent scar straight into his heart. Determination surged through him, and he swore he'd never let regret like that destroy his life again. Determination ignites in Reed's chest. He makes his final call: save his mother no matter what. He grips a book and dives into the search for treatment methods, and pure confidence surges through him like, of course he'll find a cure. Reed proudly declares he's here, and when he morphs into a stunning young man with silver hair and violet eyes, he realizes a power is burning inside him, the kind that grabs your imagination by the throat. Because he can memorize every book word for word, nothing ever truly beats him. Fresh challenges only fire him up to push past his own limits. While Reed tore through the library shelves, he suddenly stumbled on a book, and its pages screamed the same truths he'd been carrying for years. Out in the world around him, he spots those same familiar plants, gemstones, and minerals from his past life, like the universe is whispering back. Then it hits him hard. This knowledge could finally earn him decent money and fund his green experiments. He's already daydreaming blueprints and cooking up new methods, until bam, everything gets cut short by the shock news. Sama, his father, has returned. The family is gearing up for a huge moment. Their long-awaited reunion with their father, Marquis Rainer Baldia, for the very first time since he came back into this world. His heart thrashes like a drum as he storms toward the room where his father is already waiting. Anxiety clenches his chest, but sheer determination drives him to speak up, what really matters to him. His family rushes in to reassure him, telling him he's fine, even after he'd recently blacked out in the garden. With full seriousness, he drops into the chair across from his father and blurts out he's got two burning questions. His father leans in, listens close, and tells him to speak up, and that's when Rid swallows his fear and finally voices his first request. He begs for permission to master magic and martial arts right alongside his studies, and they even admit that in the initial game Rid seemed ridiculously weak. But with relentless training, he somehow grows into pure, jaw-dropping power. Even after Rid mastered every kind of magic, he still stayed in the shadows, but in free mode he suddenly stole the spotlight, and that's when the main character went, "You're coming with me," pulling him in to smash through the hardest challenges. The son boldly proclaims he'll get stronger for his mother's sake, then freezes for a second when he sees her helpless but snaps back fast. Tears won't solve anything when trouble hits. Because of all that, Rid finally talks his father around. He's ready to dive into magic and martial arts. The long-awaited permission lands, and the moment he gets the green light, he fires off his very next request, the second one. Wanting his own free capital still won't let him breathe easy. His mind keeps racing with fresh product ideas he's desperate to launch. And while he's locked in that dream, his father can't help but ask in confusion. Does he really expect funding without even bringing a proposal to the table? Rid Betts talks about Bond's son and won't stop hammering home how badly he wants the Marquis to approve, then pushes him to back his growth and bet on his future. Even though the father flinches at the risk of handing that huge sum to a kid, he still nods and promises to set aside every last cent. And that's when Reed, genuinely moved, thanks him and seizes the moment to ask for one more favor. Grid marches up to his father and pitches the wild idea of finally having dinner together, confessing that neither he nor Mel talks to him much anymore. Then the father freezes in real surprise, before he starts thinking hard about it. Finally, Ridden and Mel slide in at the same table, both grinning, their smiles buzzing with hope as their bond slowly starts to heal and get stronger. At the family dinner, her dad asks if he can call his daughter, Mel, just like the others do, so gently it catches her off guard. Melody freezes, then drops her cutlery in shock. A tense silence snaps over the room. Every person at the table freezes, holding their breath, eyes locked on her reaction. Melody bursts out loud and full of confidence, declaring, "Don't call me Mel, only my mother and my brother get to." That sudden reaction throws everyone into shock. His father's face twists with pure confusion, while the maids bury their giggles like they're about to burst. Rid seizes the moment, laughs it off, and steers the talk straight to what she wants next. Inspecting the estate, the father doesn't argue, he just nods and snaps that the carriage be readied right away. Joy explodes in Rid's chest when he hears he won't be alone tonight, and he instantly throws his sincere thanks their way. Then his companions step forward and introduce themselves, Rubens and Diana. Rit leaned toward the carriage window, staring out as he learned that Baldia's lands are called the Borderlands. Far from the capital, sure, but the soil here is so fertile it turns farming into gold and trade into a booming lifeline. A memory snaps into place, his father's idea to plant olive trees, and as Rid leans back in his seat, he peeks out the carriage window and spots that. They call it the Borderland, but it's anything but empty. Diana warns that almost everything has been stripped away before you even reach the destination. Rid's mind locks in on one clear truth. He's not here to just stare at the sea. The real goal is huge, and the money his father gave him is the spark. In the biggest city in all of Baldia, he's ready to build something massive right here, and this is where his story kicks off. Swept up in the wild rush of the lively crowd, he stares around, stunned, and blurts, "Wow, And right away Diana snaps, "Stay close, too many people around here." Grinning, he agrees, and the whole crew barrels toward that building. But right there, Diana freezes, scanning the area like something's off, and asks if this is really the same place. Reed lets out a nervous little laugh, acting totally sure of his plan anyway. Reed walks in there like he owns the place, striding toward the company, Christy with Diana and Rubens at his side. And right on the way, they meet an administrator with cat ears who greets them warmly. Reed's caught off guard by her appearance for half a second, but he snaps back into himself fast. A few days back, he mailed a letter straight to Christy San. Then the receptionist perked up, listened like it mattered, and promised she'd track down what Christy's boss thinks. After that, Reed winds up inside the office of Christy Saffron, the boss of the entire Christy company. A bright young woman beams and proudly announces her name. Right beside her, a registrar with cat ears grins in place. Reed's mind snaps into place. Everything is exactly like Garn promised. Right in front of him sits the only elf in Baldia's territory, and she's running her own business too. Christy leans in and tells Reed they should head to the guest room, and Reed nods, tight-lipped but locked in. Reed and Christy trade polite greetings, but he slowly steers the moment. Then he asks his guards to wait outside the door, quietly hinting he wants to talk to Christy in private. Christy can't help but ask if he's really sure, and Reed shoots back an instant yes. No doubt, no pause. Then Reed says he wants to get right closer to the heart of it, and Christy jumps in without a second thought. Very well. Reed suddenly blurts out, asking Christy if she knows her way around skin lotions and hair conditioners. Then the story yanks us back a few days. Lost in her book, she accidentally spots a familiar plant, aloe, and freezes. Turns out aloe grows in this world too, just like back home. That memory sparks her curiosity about whether they make aloe lotions here, and before she can stop herself, the maid asks the question that flips everything. So what's a skin lotion exactly? Reed tells Donnie all his skincare secrets. Once you've cleansed your face, you've got to moisturize to keep your skin looking fresh and staying healthy. And it hits Donnie like a brand new world because she's never even considered that, while Reed quietly brushes it off like, "I just suddenly realized it could help." Later, as Red stares out over the fields, his eyes catch the wild aloe bushes creeping up near the estate, and his memory snaps right to it. These plants can even seal serious wounds. Boom, his brain starts spinning plans on the spot, and before long he's dreaming up aloe-based lotions and balms, all paired with the local olives. Memories of the videos he binge-watched before his rebirth crash back into his mind, and they light a fire in him to start building brand new prototypes. But when every update finally gets handed to Christy, she caws. She swears she's never heard of anything like this before, and that alone makes the idea feel brand new and terrifyingly promising. So Reed doubles down and pushes forward even harder. Reed bursts out in excitement and flashes the cards. He even brought the prototype ones, and it completely blindsides Christy. Totally stunned by what he's made, she practically begs to test it herself, and Reed instantly says yes. So she applies the lotion to her hands with careful, focused precision. Christy puts the product through its paces, then blurts out in pure excitement. She's stunned beyond words and keeps repeating over and over how incredible it is. She finally admits she's been fretting over dry skin for ages, shocked that a real remedy even exists, and she leans in with total confidence. This product is going to blow up. The whole team grins, practically buzzing because her feedback is that good. After testing the product, Christy is absolutely buzzing and demands they push it to the market ASAP. And Reed just hands her the air conditioner like he's sitting on a goldmine of money-making ideas. Then they dive straight into planning their next move. Reed whips around to Christy and demands she track down 2 healing ingredients to fix her mana deficiency, the root of grass and moon herb. When Christy slid her eyes over that letter, she couldn't believe a kid would actually dare to toss out a proposal that serious. Everything screamed nonsense to her. But now, standing face to face with Reed, her doubts evaporate. She's hit with real, respectful admiration, because the person in front of her practically radiates unstoppable confidence. She drops a bombshell. Turns out she founded her own company, cut loose from the Saffron family empire, and she truly thought she was just doing the responsible thing by looking after the Marquis's son. Emma clocks that Christy's actually having a blast, and Christy laughs back. "Yeah, sure, but the long grind is still coming, so don't get too comfortable." Reed bursts back in with joyful news. Christy said yes to his proposal. Pure excitement hits him like a wave, because now the doors are flying open for joint projects with her company. The whole night turns into a full-on celebration, yet even with the cheers rolling, Reed knows one thing: he can't let his guard down. The thought of being exiled, or even executed. If he stays stuck doing nothing won't let him breathe, so he finally gets it. He has to earn enough to stand on his own. The family spots a girl standing all by herself, and they can't help but wonder, did she really get lost? Cautiously, he leans in and asks, "Is everything okay?" The girl freezes, hugs her shawl tight, and lets out a shy, uncertain without ever letting her guard down. A shy girl blurts out that she got lost and can't find the person she came with anymore. Then a skeptical family member steps in, snaps his identity as a representative of the Marquis family, and tells her he'll help, asking carefully if she remembers exactly where they separated and promising to bring her right back. Right before they can leave, a man suddenly steps in, calls out to the girl, and lets out a huge breath of relief like he's finally found the very one he's been hunting for ages. The man heartily thanks Rid for the support, making it clear how much it helped, and Rid just smiles back, saying helping a girl in trouble is completely natural. When he speaks with total sincerity, the girl gets hit hard. Surprise flashes across her face, and emotions crash in like a sudden storm. Even the quiet guy riding beside her clocking every shift, even if he keeps it buried and silent. With a shaky exhale of relief, the elf finally spots the prince, alive and unharmed, and admits her mind has been ripping itself apart, terrified for his safety. Calling her princess, the guy spots the shock flashing in the girl's eyes, because sitting there on the bed, she's completely lost on who he's talking about. And there she sits, cheeks blazing with excitement, only to realize, way too late, that she never even learned the name of the boy who came to save her. One of the women starts to think, wait, am I actually in love? And that realization burns the elf's cheeks even harder, while Reuben keeps teasing Rido for not even bothering to ask the girl's name. In the carriage, Rid dozes off, snugly leaning on Diana's shoulder like he's finally safe. Reuben stares him down and quietly tells him he's finally passed out, while Diana can't stop watching, soak the scene in fascination as she's completely captivated by what she sees. Rubens decides he'll make the trip back to the estate right after he wakes up, while Reed gets hit with fresh news. His mentor, the mysterious Sandra, has arrived. She stands there radiating confidence, chin up as she proudly introduces herself, and swears that starting today, she'll be his magic teacher. Sandra stepped up and introduced herself as Sandra Ernest, the magic mentor. The whole family lit up, thrilled to finally meet her. Then Sandra asked the big question, had the boy ever messed with magic? And the answer hit hard. He'd only ever seen it on book pages, never once in real life. Impatience churns inside him as training is about to start. If his hunches are right, he'll master every element. Right then, Sandra kicks off her tale of magic. To make it work, you've got to pour your own life force into mana, the raw fuel for magic. Even with everything so tangled, she looked Rid straight in the eye and swore she'd back him at every step, urging him to hand over the whole burden to her, and promising she'd guide him through the entire process. Sandra marches Rid straight to the training field, determined to show magic in action and help him finally picture how it all works. Then her eyes light up with pure excitement, like she's absolutely in love with magic. When Sandra finally reaches the place, determination and confidence blaze in her chest, and she gets to work, gearing up to unleash her magical power for the display. Sandra rockets into the sky, snaps her fingers, and hurls a blazing fire spell. She forms a tight sphere of flames, drives it straight down, and lets a massive fireball crash onto the ground, erupting in a spectacular blast that leaves Reed staring as her magic proves itself. Rid's eyes light up with the capture, and he sprints straight to Sandra, fully spellbound by what he just witnessed. Then he blurts out how ridiculously cool the spell is, praising it without holding back. Stunned by the sweet way she's greeted, Sensei Sandra, the woman snaps to a halt, eyes wide, and can't even find the words to answer. When they call her Sensei, Sandra's face flushes with pure shyness. But she snaps back instantly, then pulls off a wild new trick. She conjures magic with 0 spells just by picturing exactly what she needs, and boom, her imagination turns real. Stunned by what she just witnessed, Rid practically bursts with excitement and urges them to start generating mana. And before the thought even finishes, her conversation partner catches the vibe and agrees to try it right now. Sandra tells him, just picture what you want, and the magic listens, no spells needed. What he sees lights a fire in Rid's chest and boosts his drive, but Sandra shuts him down right away. He's not ready for that yet. Then the lesson kicks off, straight to the basics. Reed clenched his focus and kept forcing mana into existence, but each failed try chipped away at his confidence until pure frustration roared in his chest. What if he was never meant to wield this power? Right then, Sandra slipped into view like a friendly blessing and whispered a secret, a technique that could help. Even with his doubts screaming at him, Reed decided to bet everything on it. Sandra told him to spread his palms wide, then got ready to show him how. During the mono-conversion, Reed gets slammed by a brutal electric shock that sparks through his whole body. Pure panic claws at his mind like everything's about to shatter. Then Sandra, barely smiling, stays cool and tells him not to worry. It's only a strange sensation, and nothing bad is going to happen. A sickening, strange feeling snaps awake in Red, like something unseen is clawing its way out of the depths of his soul and leaking through his palms. So intense it buzzes into every single cell like a nightmare he can't ignore. Sandra tells him to hang on a little longer while Rid feels like he's getting zapped alive, and even though it's pure torture, a wild thought hits him. Maybe the teacher isn't just doing this to test him. Maybe she's smiling through it because she's doing it on purpose. Rid crumples to the floor, looking like he's been through the worst kind of suffering, while Sandra, smiling just a little, declares it's finally over and softly apologizes. The girl says she sped everything up with a technique called forced awakening of human consciousness. Rage burns in Rida's chest. Why didn't she warn him ahead of time how brutal this experience would get? Sandra's own family rips into her for her sadism, screaming that she does it on purpose. Yet Sandra just smiles, living for every single second of it. After Sandra figured out the source of mana was inside him, she broke down, step by step, how to turn life force into mana. Energized, Rid boldly struts after the clues, feeling the source, hunting for a way to reshape it, zeroing in on the deadly power of compressed energy, doing every move exactly the way she taught him, alone. Andra ushers Reed forward, drilling him to pour mana straight into his fist, telling him to picture the spell he needs and replay her old fireball demonstration in his head. Then Reed drops, crashing down. Clenching his resolve, he studies every detail, stacks mana in his palms, imagines the spell in his head, and pushes himself to forge a fireball, aimed dead-on to strike the target exactly. Red clenches his jaw, screams the spell like a war cry, and a fireball erupts in his hands, raging with pure, frenzied power. A blazing blast of energy rips through the hall in seconds, and Sandra's shocked. She can barely breathe, wonder plastered across her face. Bursting with joy, Rid yells that he pulled off the spell, then immediately dials Sandra to hype her up for how insanely good she is at the game. She admits that even after someone masters mana transformation, it's insanely hard, but she can't help being blown away by what he can do. People couldn't stop talking. His imagination was seriously impressive, and yeah, he might just be a real genius. Red's eyes blaze with pure thrill as every fireball crashes into the mark. No misses, not even once. Seeing it work, he throws caution aside and casts a spell with 0 incantations, and somehow it still lands perfectly. Sandra watches in shock, then blurts out in awe that he's a genius. Soon the mana supply sputters out, and he finally admits he got way too carried away. Then everyone nods like, all right, back to studying. Rid wants to know if mana can be restored, but Sandra shuts it down. Right now, it only comes back naturally, and even after countless attempts by many countries to invent some special method, nobody has managed to make it work yet. She says the more you spend this mana, the faster it stacks up, until your supply grows bigger every single time. Then she launches into the 2 big types of magic. Special magic, featuring the forced transformation technique she invented, and attribute magic, where you turn mana into elements like fire, water, wind, and more. Sandra tells him magic comes in 1,000 wild forms, and then promises him Reed will one day forge his own spells. So she pushes him to keep grinding, transforming his mana day after day. Driven by the chance to grow, Rid dives headfirst into training, grinning as his body gets faster, sharper, and more capable with every round, while a guard watches him with worry, calling out in a rush of anxiety. Ruben's clocks Reed's weird movements and blurts what he's doing. Reed just laughs it off and says he's warming up. But even Rubens can't deny those gymnastics are unlike anything he's ever seen. And that's when Reed realizes, in this world, they don't even know what gymnastics is, so Rid can't stop wondering if his weird habits are drawing attention. Yet he's not about to quit. Right then, Ruben slaps a wooden sword into his hands and warns that today he'll learn the basics of martial arts. Rid flashes back to his past fails, where his reactions were a mess and confidence never really grew. But now there's no dodging it. Rubens can't stop praising Rid's skills and dares him to join combat training. So when Rid hears that, his excitement bursts out immediately and Rubens snaps, "Get into position," then pushes him into sword drills right away. After a couple practice swings, Rubens snapped into a fighting stance and dared Rid to strike first, his choice. Red explodes forward with wild energy at Rubens, then stops dead, sensing something seriously wrong. During the attack, the body snaps into action all on its own, like some other hand is yanking the strings. Confusion crashes over the mind. What the hell is going on? Joy lit up Reed as if his bones turned to lightning. His body moved quicker than ever, and every sword swing thrilled him so hard he finally understood what true exhilaration feels like. A thought crawls into his head. In this new world, his physical power didn't just improve, it somehow grew on its own. Then confidence surges in. Maybe this is the place where he's meant to be great at everything. Reed can barely keep himself upright, but Ruben's heartfelt praise surges new strength into him. Maybe one day Reed could even outshine Raynor, and that thought won't let go. However, Reed's boiling with rage because every training swing he makes just misses. And when he hears that Rubens is Diana's childhood friend, he snaps into action and cooks up a crafty scheme to get payback for his humiliating failure. Reed suddenly hits Rubens with a sly jab, grinning and asking if he's got a thing for Diana. Rubens freezes, blushing so hard it's ridiculous, and Reed doesn't even think about backing off. He's just getting started. Everyone in the castle whispers the same thing. Rubens can't bring himself to approach Diana. He's got zero courage to admit it, and the moment he tries to deny it, he gives himself away because the truth is staring right out of his face. Rubens crumpled to the floor, drained and speechless after that streak of jokes, while Reed spun around in pure confusion, terrified he'd stumbled onto something that hurt. Meanwhile, Diana shows up nearby and blurts, "What's going on?" When she sees what's happened, everything clicks instantly. Then she shoots off a call to Reed, and Reed immediately backs up, nerves sky-high, terrified of what just went down. Diana spots that Ruben's acting weird again, and before she can even talk herself out of it, she fires off, "What did Reed say to put you in this state?" Reed hesitates, then finally blurts it out. Rubens is a total coward when it comes to her. The moment the words land, everything snaps into place. The tension spikes so hard the air feels heavy, and Reed suddenly realizes he might have pushed things way too far. Rage rolling off Diana, she stalks up with a deadly aura and warns Reed that a serious talk is coming. While in his imagination, she morphs into a real demon, unleashing savage fury like a storm. Fear crashes over Rubens the second he spots her, and before he can even breathe, a brutal slap lands across his cheek, bam. And he blurts out, totally stunned, "What are you doing here?" Rubens admits training with Reed is over, because Diana's move left his confidence rattled. She flashes a predatory grin and tells Reed she needs to talk. He just nods, but you can tell he's thrilled, trying to hide it. As Diana strode off beside him, Reed's stomach dropped. He finally got it. She was now #1 on the don't even think about joking list. And yeah, that moment hammered one lesson into him: never ever butt into someone else's love story. Mel can't stop talking about how insanely good Reed is at reading illustrated books. He somehow gives every character its own voice, and hearing him do it is pure joy for her. Reed admits lately there's this crushing pressure in his chest, like Mel will snap for sure if he stops voicing the characters. Even when his throat turns to sand, he keeps going, and he can't help but smile at how Mel's eyes light up with pure joy. Reed's mom lights up and gushes that his talent is actor level. Then Mel, glowing with pride, jumps in, swears she's the reason he took this leap, and makes sure everyone praises her too. The final scene spills with warmth. Mom and daughter lock in a tight embrace, pouring tenderness into each other's arms, while Reed stays quiet, watching the whole thing like it's too precious to blink at. Turns out Reed's mother is battling a brutal illness, monodeficiency, deadly as it is, and somehow not something she passed down. Only a handful of relatives even know the truth. At first she's all smiles, but the cracks show fast. Weakness drags at her day by day, and she cuts the talk short, claiming a visitor just arrived. Reed spots her sickly, unnatural pallor, and Mel waves her off with a bright, happy smile. Chris thrusts 2 bottles into Red's hands and grins, telling him the sales are booming. Once he started handing out samples of the lotion and conditioner, they were meeting non-stop, and her support made it all run smooth as silk. Ingredients were growing, factories were being prepped, and every step was moving with confidence. And Reed, he's openly thrilled by how fast everything is changing. Her family couldn't stop praising Kreese's professionalism, and Kreese just smiled back, saying her success wouldn't happen without his money backing her up. Then it hit them. The real test was next, ramping production to the next level. Chris breaks it down hard. If you don't teach people the basics of healthcare and how to use medical supplies the right way, everything falls apart. She leans into the world of different skin types and race-specific traits, and she effortlessly breaks down why you've got to pay attention to every little detail in skincare. Rit can't help but be blown away by her deep knowledge. Rid is staring down the mess counterfeit goods can cause, and he lays out 3 smart moves to shield people for good. It's all built for real peace of mind. Customer support with crystal-clear steps and a solid return policy, logo design pulled from the Baldia family coat of arms, and store management backed by 2 verified companies, so customers feel safe and truly trusted. When Red offers him the chance to become the face of their product, Chris can't hide the shock on his face. With a confident grin, he tells her, "You've got this," and promises she can handle the job. A few days back, Reed met a man who promised to deliver goods to the imperial couple, but instead of going alone. Out of every candidate, Reed locks eyes on Chris, because in his mind, her polish and beauty will make the cosmetic offer shine brighter than anyone else's. Panic hits him hard. His face is way too youthful, and that could sink the whole conversation about beauty, because no adult is going to take a young guy seriously. This product is dead sure of one thing. The moment everyone sees just how ridiculously charming Chris looks in these, men will rush to buy them, so their wives and daughters get flooded with gifts. The man nods and signs off on the plan, swearing he'll drag a company rep along to the capital. And when the RID shows up with unexpected maturity, it leaves everyone in the room stunned. While he wonders if a 6-year-old really could have made this, he watches Chris, despite the heavy pressure, still vow with total sincerity that he'll give it his absolute all. Under the moonlight, Rit leans in close and studies the grass one blade at a time. This rare medicinal plant Chris was told to hunt down. Believing the right treatment could slow his mother's illness, he secretly grinds day and night for answers, anything to shield the one person he loves most. Chris tells them they haven't found the grass roots yet, but he refuses to let anyone panic. He says to stay patient and promises he won't stop searching. While everyone else is buzzing, Rid is locking in the cosmetics plan. His lands will grow the ingredients, and partner companies will sprint through manufacturing, logistics, sales, and customer service, while a slice of the profits lands in his own pocket. Once that's handled, he swings his focus to the next big product. Then, just a few days later, Chris and Rid's father ride straight to the capital to unveil the cosmetics to the imperial couple. Rid brews a monozil from moon grass, praying it'll ease his mother's condition, at least a little. He knows it won't fully cure her, but he clings to it as temporary relief until he finds the real remedy, and then, bam, a barrier snaps into place because he doesn't know enough pharmacology to go further. One guy blurts out that they should ask Sandra because she knows everything about this stuff, and Rid rushes over to show her the medicinal herb he dug up. When she spots the plant, surprise hits her face as she gasps. "What is this?" The man tells them this plant can bring human strength back, and the moment Sandra hears it, her jaw drops, because it finally clicks. This herb is the real deal. Sandra snapped the rare moon grass into focus at once, and a stunned gasp burst out of her. She couldn't believe it. This plant was real. Caught in the net, she blurts out to Rid that she used to run a research lab in the capital, and she's been studying the very manipulations he needs right now. That shocking coincidence leaves Rid genuinely stunned. Sandra's memories flash back to the moment she first stepped into the capital, when pure magic burned in her chest and hard-won knowledge carved her path straight into the role of laboratory director, where she dove headfirst into the work, teaming up with the strongest wizards to forge a monolith. But then something eerie hit. Those shipments meant to land last week are still nowhere, and that delay lit up everyone's suspicions. Seeing the delays crawl back in, Sandra's nerves snap. She can practically feel it. A research breakthrough is about to be announced, and another ugly setback is looming at the worst possible moment. She panics, grabs the formula, and storms straight for the lab, sprinting against the clock. On the way, she collides with a woman, blurted out a quick apology, and barrels on, totally unaware a shadow is tracking her, eyes locked on her like something's definitely off. A smug aristocrat stepped in front of Sandra and sneered that she belonged here like a filthy rat's ugly face. While Sandra ponders the cold disdain from certain aristocrats, mostly because she hires people no matter who they are, she finally cracks it. Their hatred isn't principle, it's envy, fueled by secret opposition aimed straight at her. With the research giving them nothing but dead ends, people started bailing one after another. And Sandra, choking on the guilt, took the fall and quit her job at the lab. Overwhelmed by the Emperor's command, the girl got crushed under brutal criticism. Some people even clamored for her execution, and afraid of retaliation, her own family shut her out. Alone, shattered, and drifting with no purpose, she hit rock bottom, until the moment everything finally flipped. Just as Sandra teetered on the edge of despair, Marquis Rayner swooped in and grabbed her hand, then welcomed her into his home as his mentor, lighting a spark of hope for a brand new beginning. After every brutal trial broke her, she still clawed her way back up. And now she's standing here, unshakable, burning with pure determination to keep moving forward. The truth smacks Rid in the face. When he begs Sandra to help with research that once torpedoed her career, he's basically making her relive the worst memories all over again. Then he finally rips the truth wide open. His mother is trapped in a mysterious illness with no cure in sight, and the only shot at saving her is crafting an elixir that can buy time. With a broken heart, he pleads with Sandra to help him pull this impossible mission off. Rid locks eyes with Sandra and speaks straight from the heart, insisting he needs her, because without Sandra the monopotion won't ever happen. Sandra freezes at his raw sincerity, silent but pulled in by the sudden, powerful promise. Touched by Rid's plea, and remembering how someone once helped her, Sandra nods and gives her consent, swearing she'll do everything she can to rescue Nanali. Rid, tears of relief burning her eyes, leans in and warmly thanks her, then grips her hand tight like a promise of gratitude. After Rid hands her a promise of a brand new research center, and assures her Christie will cover everything, Sandra barrels straight into the work with pure grit, dead set on making it succeed. In Sandra's memories, one truth keeps snapping into focus. Back when she worked in the capital, they couldn't get a single piece of moon grass, even though everyone swore it was the whole key. The old lab had nothing left of that plan, but now she finally gets a fresh shot to rebuild from scratch. Right in the middle of work, a shocking realization hits her like lightning, and she immediately reaches for Rid. With a confident grin, Sandra tells Rid, "Just call me Sandra when we're talking." But the moment lessons start, it's only Sensei Sandra. She plucks a blade of grass that gleams like a tiny silver moon, proud as can be, and Rid can't help but smirk, totally amused by the whole moment. The tension melts and their voices warm up fast, like they finally trust each other. In Rid's head, he's already mapping out the trials his dad and Chris are probably getting hit with in the capital. Meanwhile, tension crackles in the air as Chris stands inside a ring of armed soldiers, his entire body vibrating with raw anxiety, because this situation is clearly about to blow up. A woman from the capital lights up, raving that the lotion and conditioner are absolutely amazing. Then she drops her bombshell offer. She wants the production rights and the recipe for the Magnolia Empire. Chris's proposal slams into him out of nowhere, shock and panic hit at once, and he snaps into action, calling Red immediately. At a quick stop on the road, Raynor tells everyone they're almost at the capital, and then he snaps to Chris, warning him that the city is crawling with danger and urging him to watch every move. Even with every risk looming, Chris surges forward with pure determination and buzzing excitement. Convinced this is a rare shot to prove her business chops, her mind races with wild, thrilling possibilities of success, and she can't stop picturing herself winning. From up here, the city looks even more unreal. The capital's heart is dazzling, bold, and beautiful in every direction. And even though Hertz has been through all this before, the sheer majesty still hits her hard and sparks real awe. That view hits her so hard she can't even form words. Her breath just gets stolen the moment she sees it. Chris stares in pure awe at the Magnolia Empire's capital, towering grand and locked down behind two huge rings of walls. Right beside the castle, the nobles' quarters sit behind even taller walls, hemmed in by a moat that keeps danger out. And past all that, the real world kicks in with the ordinary city districts. While Raynor was already pushing forward, Chris and his companion stopped dead to gawk at the carriage, then stared at the city itself, because even elven capitals don't come close to a place this huge. The guards suddenly barreled in, demanding a full search from Chris and her companion, until they learned the pair were carrying something meant for his imperial majesty, and their attitude flipped overnight. Chris's anxiety spirals out of control, but Raynor shoots in fast, calming everyone down and backing their reliability, so the guards finally wave them through to go even deeper. The crew charges straight for the castle, and once they step into those grand halls, Raynor clocks it instantly. The guards aren't just wandering around, they're working for Count Roland, sniffing out exactly what Chris is up to and what goods he's pumping out. Realizing he never mentioned it before, he shoulders the blame himself, and Chris tells Raynor he'll be way more careful from now on, until a sharp, provocative voice cuts in with a loud hum, just to yank Raynor's attention. Count Roland suddenly shows up out of nowhere, putting on a fake, polite smile as he addresses Raynor, and with a sharp, ironic jab marvels at how perfectly unbelievable this chance meeting is. First, he puts on an act, like he's just spotted Chris, and blurts out who that charming woman beside him is. Then Chris smiles and says she's Krista Saffron. Roland shoots a sly grin and admits he's already heard all about her. Count Roland Tease lets out a mocking grin as he retells the rumors, how Chris got disinherited and kicked out of the Saffron Company. Then he turns on her companion, hurling racist insults and calling it natural for her to hang out with some dumb girl. And Chris forces himself to stay calm while the other girl cringes under the weight of that humiliating pressure. Roland's gaze flashed with a bold, dangerous gleam, and Chris instantly caught it. Beasts wasn't an accident at all. Roland tossed that word out on purpose just to bait Chris into reacting. She knows calling the beast like that is straight-up offensive. And even if gossip rolls off her like water, she can't swallow the humiliation Emma just got. So she clenches her resolve and steels herself to challenge the Count. Rhaenyra snaps at Count Roland, calling out how far he's pushed his taunts, especially toward the people who showed up to meet their majesties. Pressure crushing him, Roland backs off, slaps on a fake apology, then bolts out of there. Inside a small room, Rhaenyra fills the air in a heartbeat. This is Count Roland Gelano, a complete fanatic for power and wealth. Emma rushed to apologize to Chris for the mess she caused, but when she opened her mouth, all she got back was encouragement. No blame, not a single bit. And because of what happened with Count Roland, one decision hit hard. He was permanently banned from the Christie Company community. Before long, a servant strides up and ushers the guests to their imperial majesties, praising their justice like it's law itself. Chris clamps his breath and thinks, this is it. The decisive moment is finally here. In the grand throne room, thick with nobility, Chris and Emma finally lock eyes with Emperor Arvin Magnolia and Empress Matilda Magnolia. Then Arvin greets them with a warm bow, apologizing for keeping them waiting. A heavy silence falls as the decisive council finally kicks off. Rhaenyra stands before the emperor with a stiff bow and offers a heartfelt apology for dropping by the castle so often. And the moment the emperor's eyes catch the young woman at his side, his curiosity spikes. He demands to know who she is. Chris steps forward with a deep, respectful bow, Christy Saffron, daughter of Baron Martin Saffron from the Kingdom of Astoria. And the moment the emperor hears that name, his interest ignites on the spot. The emperor had heard about Chris's ties to the Saffron Company, but when he learned she was also a baron's daughter, his surprise hit like a punch. Then she told him the title had only been granted to her father just recently. A jolt hits Count Roland. He finally realizes he hasn't shown her the respect she deserves, and heat of embarrassment floods his face, while the impatient empress slams down her demand. Bring it to her right now. With the pressure finally easing, Chris stands tall and proudly presents the goods to the imperial couple. The lotion and conditioner she uses herself don't stop everyone from staying unimpressed. Most men stay cold, but the empress, the court ladies, and even the maids can't look away. One of them, totally dazzled by Chris's hair, goes so far as to reach out, and Chris doesn't flinch. She lets them touch it and beams a bright, fearless smile right back. The empress leans in and softly strokes Chris's hair, totally mesmerized by how insanely soft and luminous it is. Stunned, she blurts out that she's never felt hair this silky in her life, and Crisa sweeps over with a bottle of lotion, inviting her to test it. Then the empress beams, swearing the truth is that only women can truly spot what this product is worth. Count Roland lunges in to stop it, warning that the product is deadly. But the empress snaps him right out of the way, chilling him with an icy look as she says she doesn't care about his opinion and is speaking only with Christie. Irritation flared across Roland's face, but the empress wouldn't budge. She ignored him and instead raved about the lotion, claiming it worked wonders for dry skin, then smirked and joked that Christie might be trying to steal the hearts of every woman in the castle. The empress practically breathes excitement, calling it the best gift she's ever received, and when his touch lands on her skin, her whole composure seems to vanish under his spell. Krista answers with respect, stunned and honored that she gets to hear praise like that. Deep in the room, another woman watches it all with a razor-focused, thought-heavy stare. Meanwhile, the empress can't stop gushing, praising the lotion and conditioner for how amazing they are. Until, out of nowhere, she turns to Christie and asks if she'll sell the recipe and the production rights to her empire of magnolias. Christie freezes when the proposal hits out of nowhere. Her face twists into pure surprise mixed with total confusion. Suddenly brimming with adrenaline, Christie tries to turn down the offer politely, but her confusion keeps shouting all over her face. Since Marquis Rhaenyra helped shape the plan too, they can't make this decision by themselves. Yet the Empress swears nothing will block the way, because Rhaenyra serves the Magnolia Empire and can't refuse. Christie snaps to attention and realizes the weight of the final choice now lands completely on her shoulders. Ancient trauma and brutal reproaches crash through Krista's mind as Rhaenyra lunges in, trying to seize control of everything. until Rid's sudden, razor-sharp voice cuts through the silence and forces everyone to listen. The company poured every last resource into these products, so if the empire abuses its power and grabs them, the whole business will vanish from the country. And he fires off a blunt warning. If the capital starts taking forced ownership of inventions, creators will shut down, because nobody will gamble on innovation when the price is losing everything. Chasing peace, Christie doesn't back down. She offers the Empress a preferential right instead of scrapping production rights, promising she'll never be shut out of the product. Christie pleads with Her Majesty for understanding and a little mercy, and the Empress grants her request with a faint, knowing smile. She argues that snatching people's creations by force would be cruel, and once traders panic, they'd flee the capital without looking back, and that lands the empire in an instant freefall. The Emperor's voice booms as he declares the empire will tighten the grip on production rights, yet he also confirms one thing loud and clear. Christie stays the only company with exclusive rights to make lotion and conditioner in Baldiot's lands, and everyone in the room snaps to attention at once. Christie's jaw drops when every problem suddenly snaps into place, and she gasps like she can't believe it. Meanwhile, the Empress leans in and winks, flashing that smug conspiracy sign that says, "Yep, this was all part of my plan." Shock slams into Christie the second she realizes the brutal truth. This whole nightmare was planned from the very start, and Rhaenyr's face practically screams the real core of his scheme right then. The Empress's eyes radiated total certainty, like she'd already mapped every move, from the negotiations to that sudden lightning-fast snap that shattered the deadlock. Christie finally gets it. The Empress didn't care one bit about the formula's rights or who could produce it. She only wanted sure access to the ingredients and tools she could use for herself. She didn't need tyranny or dirty tricks. She maneuvered the whole situation until Rhaenyr was the one who ended up making the promise. And even with all her clout as a noblewoman, she still saw him as nothing more than a move on the glittering chessboard of city politics. Exhausted to the bone, Christie crumples onto the couch, choking back a sigh, while Emma watches with a sly little smile. They stride up to her, faces lit with admiration, praising the brilliant work she's done, until the air snaps when the Emperor and Empress announce their arrival, and both of them suddenly lose their footing. Rhaenyr, still lounging with his tea, goes stone serious as the warning he gave finally clicks back in his mind. "I told you not to lose your vigilance." The Emperor and the Empress step into the hall and blurt out an apology for interrupting everyone. Then the ruler turns to the crowd, admits he messed up, and admits he hasn't even properly introduced himself yet. After hearing everything laid out, he snaps his attention to Christie and blurts out a sincere apology for dragging her into his mess today. The lotion and conditioner prototypes are almost done, and suddenly rumors of huge orders from the capital are blazing through the whole city. Powerful aristocrats can't stop staring at the strange wares coming out of Baldia, and now they're itching to get their hands on the finest products from right here too. And just like that, the debate over exclusive rights explodes into place, the only leash strong enough to stop someone's greed. Christie exhales in relief, then bows to Her Majesty, thanking her with all his heart because he's finally sure everything worked out for the best. Now that Kreese's production rights are officially locked in, the noble class can't just use her as they please anymore. The Empress shows up like it's a mystery, praising Kreese's brains, and even saying she'd love to have someone that talented among her own ladies-in-waiting. At the same time, Rhaenyr and the rest of the aristocrats are rushing into another meeting, because big issues are on the table, and the negotiations are still nowhere near finished. Empress Matilda, fired up and unstoppable, wastes zero time and demands the right of first delivery, and Christ just sits there, completely stunned by her audacity. Meanwhile, in another wing of the castle, someone drops bombshell news. A foreign power has sent a proposal for a political marriage with the imperial family, or even another big noble house, and the whole place instantly starts freaking out. With a blazing, radiant smile, the Empress points straight at her son Rhaenyr and makes it crystal clear. Only he still hasn't found a worthy bride, and everyone knows what that means. This is a political marriage. A bonus page drops us into a warm, cozy hotel room packed with memories. Then Rit suddenly shows up and blurts out that sometimes, in his dreams, he sees himself as a kid. And right after that, the whole scene rips us back in time, where we finally meet him as a little boy. He shouts for his mom at the top of his lungs, then snatches a butterfly in the garden and grins, pure, sincere joy lighting up his face. Reed's mother stares at the butterfly's beauty with awe, then turns to her son and begs him to let it fly away. She tells Rita that butterflies are fragile living things, and trapping them in captivity is downright cruel. Then, even though Rita is still too young to truly understand death, She leans in and listens when the woman warns, "If you keep a butterfly for yourself, it might die." Rid's mom tries to explain life in the simplest way. If you can move and talk, you're alive, just like you're doing right now with me. And when life slips away, that person vanishes from this world forever. Rid's eyes go wide at the thought, and he trembles, asking if she'll disappear too when she dies. But she just smiles and softly promises she'll always stay by his side. And somehow those words calm his fear and sink straight into his heart. In Rid's mind, his mother's promise crashes back like thunder. And then a gut-churning dread squeezes his chest as his thoughts yank him straight into the past. He dove straight into memories of his old life, back when he was just a kid, obsessed with catching insects, and nostalgia hit him like a wave. Then the quiet got shredded by a girl's shout. She came sprinting toward him, yelled his name, and slammed him off his feet, leaving him frozen on the ground. Mel practically bursts with excitement. She's got a little chick in her hands, squirming and fluttering right after she found it in the garden, and she rushes to show Red. The second he lays eyes on it, his face lights up because that tiny bird is weirdly adorable to him. Curiosity won't let her rest. Someone is asking if that chick is still theirs to keep, and Mel, brimming with pride, shoots back a confident yes. With a bright grin as she leans in and blurts, "Nietzsche, can I keep it for myself?" Red's eyes lock on Mel, and boom, his mother's face slams into his mind. The same hair, the same eyes, staring back like a mirror of him. It feels like Mel carries the best parts of both parents in one person. So Red steels himself, convinced Mel will get it all without a single word. Rid insists the bird has to be brought back. Maybe its parents are already out there, doing the same desperate search they once did for Rid's own. Because even birds, when it comes to surviving, go down swinging. Mel Curios leans in, wondering what it really means to be alive, and Rid answers with a soft, loving smile that feels like warmth in your chest. She says her health is draining away drop by drop, like water leaking through a crack in a cup. At first, a tired wave hit her, small at first, then it drained her bone by bone until her legs wouldn't lift her without help, and the illness crept in so quietly she didn't even notice. Now, alone with her thoughts, she can't stop wondering how to save this fragile body. Every single day, she battles pain and an emptiness that won't let up, and after she fell ill, she poured every last bit of strength into pushing the void aside just to survive until night, until she can finally sleep. Those mornings, they're the worst. Her thoughts about how her sickness is hurting her children claw at her from the inside. Then the bomb drops. When she learns she's terminal, Reed's rage detonates. He lashes out at everyone around him. Meanwhile, Mel breaks down in tears, trying to hide her suffering with fake strength. But it shatters her just the same. Mel has changed big time. That calm in his eyes hits hard, and every word sounds grown-up and steady. The moment his smile lights up, his mother notices it right away. With shining joy, she tells us her brother read her a book. Then, after Rid once lost his cool, he snapped back and turned into the kind of support that pushes the whole family forward, giving her mother fresh strength to never quit and keep fighting. A fearless smile blooms on Nanali's face. She refuses to fold now. Her heart brims with maternal love as she vows to battle the disease and beat it. Even with her body faltering, her spirit doesn't crack. Life suddenly feels powerful again, because someone out there is waiting for her to come back. Rid is so swept up in the cozy vibe that he dozes off under the open sky without even noticing. And when he wakes up, guilt hits him hard, because while he was sleeping, his father and Chris were grinding tirelessly. With pure determination blazing in his chest, the hero sets off to sharpen his magic skills like he did back when he was grinding in the game. Then he vows to go even harder than before. Reed stared at the world around him and felt it, too familiar, like it had been ripped straight from a game he used to binge. And the money he needed had pushed him to make cosmetics. Except this time his product didn't just sell. It ended up in the Imperial family, something that had never happened in the game. And once he saw that his choices could flip the whole timeline, Reed realized if he kept steering his own way, brand new opportunities would open up right in front of him. Catching his breath in a safe spot, the hero rushes in ready to unleash what he can do. And the first thing he does is lock his focus on the fire element. Before that giant crystal, the clan hypes themselves up, runs the test with swagger, and declares they've mastered every magical element out there. Rid gives his spells names that hit hard and sound simple, like Fire Lands and Stormy Lands, using the core magic itself, while staying razor alert, ready to snap into action the moment an unexpected attack comes flying in. Red's eyes lock in, and she chants a spell. Then a blazing fiery spear rips into existence. The moment it hits the ground, it erupts into a massive explosion. After finishing training, Red is hit with a satisfying, bone-deep exhaustion, and it's packed with proud pride at what he pulled off. Then, out of nowhere, anxiety hits him like a punch, because Mel was the one who'd been watching the whole thing unfold. The spell-struck girl bolts ahead, unable to stop staring at the magic that just exploded from his palm, while Raid lingers back, staring in confusion with a flush of embarrassment. Rid tells Mel to keep the scene magic under wraps, then swears that he'll read her favorite picture book to prove he means it. Mel's face lights up instantly, but she can't stop herself from asking why something so beautiful has to be hidden. She promises she'll stay quiet, and the second the ink dries, she's back to pushing Rid to show the trick again, eager as ever. The family is sure that the second everyone finally hears the truth, he'll rocket straight into the spotlight, and there's no hiding from all the added noise. A letter from Chris, who's gone charging off to the capital, turns up right near Red. When Reed opens the letter, it hits him like a storm. Chris insists Empress Matilda has snapped, Raynor has masterminded the trap, and Count Roland is suddenly out of the picture. Then the last line drops like a knife. I am in danger. Reed can't stand the mess of it, and the more it twists, the more he craves the real truth. Soon, he's dragged into lessons where the real truth finally lands. If you want to master certain abilities, you've got to have the right inner inclination for them. During the lesson, the teacher demanded, "Do you need special abilities to master special magic?" And Rid, totally lost, blurted out, "I have absolutely no idea." Shock flickered in her eyes at the empty ideas, but when his honest answer came through, she broke into approval, because real truth always earns praise. She told him that with relentless training, anyone could not just inherit magic, but forge their own one-of-a-kind spells. Then Rid blushed, burning with excitement as wild new ideas for his magic started flooding his mind. Red can't stop wondering, does special magic demand a sharp, crystal-clear image like offensive magic does? The teacher nods and tells him straight, to cast or even mimic this kind of magic, you don't just need a ton more mana, you need an even clearer vision of exactly what you're trying to create. Even so, only the original creator can pass down that special magic. But no matter who you are, you still can't cast it unless you've got enough mana to fuel it. From the comments, it's clear lunar grass can restore manners, so the real problem is getting its power out cleanly and packing it tight. The teacher gets hooked on the breakthrough and starts dreaming up the endgame. A drink or maybe even an injection. Catching a wild burst of inspiration, she sprints to build fresh prototypes, and Red is left alone, steaming with irritation and gutted over how classes got yanked at the last second. Beneath a stormy sky, Rid weighs the idea of forging his own spell. He's got plenty of mana, but then dread hits hard. How in the world does he know the exact amount of magical energy he's carrying? Just as doubt tightens his chest, lightning sparks in his mind, and he realizes there might be a special spell or tool made for that, slicing light through the darkness. Rid sprints home through sheets of heavy rain, soaking to the bone as the uncertainty in the air tightens around him. When he shows up looking like that, the maids erupt in chaos. Shock snaps into worry. One maid dashes for a towel while the rest hurry to set up a hot bath, terrified he'll catch a cold. Reed's soaked to the bone, but he refuses to lose heart. He apologizes for the mess and swears all he needs is a change of clothes, yet the maids won't hear it. After that garden incident, they're not risking his health, and no matter how hard he protests, the girls scoop him up and demand, "First, get a hot bath." Finally, Rid sank into the blazing hot bath, and pure relief hit him hard. He hadn't tasted real peace like this in ages. In this world, most folks scrub up with wet towels, so a real bath is pure luxury. So when he sees a bathtub dropped right in the middle of the room, shock hits him hard. How did they even pull that off? He sinks into the warm water, and for a little while, the worries melt away as he finally lets himself relax. The family grilled the costs of the bath and how much hot water they burned, and when he dug into the numbers, liters, grams, meters, shock hit him hard. The measurements were identical to the ones from his old world. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a burst of inspiration hits the hero, and that spark locks onto his secret plan like it was always meant to happen. Rid strides into the inner courtyard with pure determination, gripping the measuring cup the steward just shoved into his hands. Because in this game, he's about to juggle a whole stack of rolls and play them all perfectly. With a confident smirk on her face, she perches on a log and readies her idea, ready to unleash magic and prove it. Rid starts pouring water magic into a measuring cup, and the vessel snaps perfectly to 1 exact liter. Just like that, neat and simple, and that's what ignites his plan. He'll fill, pour out, and repeat over and over, stacking the same result in a row until it breaks, or proves something bigger. He even names the spell 1 liter, and with that plain little trick, he's ready to see how far his magic can really go. The family hammers at their craft day after day, grinding until it's sharper than ever and never letting up. He keeps sharpening the leader's spell. Every time, the cup fills with sickening precision, until that routine bursts into hundreds of flawless magical moves. Exhaustion is crushing him and his strength is draining fast, but Red stays locked in, chanting that spell again and again, eyes fixed on how to control every wave of water. A stubborn grin spreads across his face as he shouts, "Focus," and keeps molding the liquid in his hands. Even wiped out to the bone, Rid still keeps his magic locked in, no slip-ups. He casts that one leader spell 980 times back-to-back, tests the burn every single time, and goes, "Yep, it drains the same each round." So that's his verdict. His mana reserves aren't just enough. They're sitting at no less than 980 units. Using that logic, he forges a wild new spell, ***, Moni's measurement, ***, and with a snap you can instantly see the exact numerical level of Moni on anyone in sight, even your own. He doesn't waste a second. He blurts out the new spell right away, Mono-dimensional measurement. A message snaps across his vision, personal mana 80. He jerks in shock at the voice in his head, then wastes no time. He tries again. As soon as he flicked his eyes toward everyone else, nothing had changed. Only he was the one the magic hit. Joy crashes over Rita the moment he hears the spell's voice again. Yep, the plan worked. Then he notices his mana drop from 80 to 60 and realizes 20 mana gets burned every single time he takes a measurement. Thinking about his mom, he finally gets it. The spell's real worth hits him hard. Once she takes the elixir that brings back her manners, he'll get to test if the potion actually worked for real. With a confident stride and eyes blazing with purpose, Red cradles his training cup in both hands. Then a grin breaks across his face as he proudly declares he's just taken another giant step toward his dream. The boy admits he got obsessed with figuring out exactly how much mana magic takes, so he built a one-of-a-kind spell, the measurement of mana. The woman's stunned, furious, and practically trembling, because how in the world could he pull off something like that? Her mouth spits out hard criticism, saying his idea goes against everything that's ever made sense. And you can see it. She can't even process what she's hearing. She's just trying to wrap her head around how huge his discovery really is. Rit explains that he dreamed up his one-dimensional magic after watching how people measure water. Then he forged a spell that spits out exactly 1 liter of magical energy, turning it into his go-to unit for every calculation that comes next. Sandra's eyes widened, because right then an unexpected idea hit her, and she realized he could do water magic too. Sandra's face turns dead serious as she warns Rid. If anyone ever finds out about his magic, he'll be trapped doing years of lab work with zero say in the matter. She straight up tells him not to spill that secret to a single soul but Rid. He was hoping she'd light up with excitement over his discovery. Rid can't believe he's stuck working alone to pull off this magic. Then Sandra drops the truth. Sure, a few researchers can conjure mana, but most of them live in a totally different world. Most folks can't summon or wield magic at all. She says only a real genius, or someone who's trained for ages, could control spells this cleanly, like he does. And as the pieces click, Rid finally grasps just how serious this is. His powers are truly one of a kind, the kind people can only marvel at. The family sits there and connects the dots. Magic is everywhere in this world, but it's only actually used in a couple spots. The army, the research halls. And yeah, he thought it was weird that nobody on the estate throws a spell until it clicked. Most people here can only watch from the outside, dreaming of power they can't touch. When Rid realizes how rare magic actually is, disappointment hits hard. He'd expected a fantasy world where spells are thrown around like everyday things, not treated like treasures worth their weight in gold. Sandra even admits, sure, I can invent a spell to conjure a liter of water, but I can't actually cast it. That missing water attribute grates on her nerves, and in the end she finally concedes. Liquid really is a miracle, because it pulls off what she never could. The family admits it, but the question still burns. Why didn't someone like Sandra, pure genius at mono-conversion, get dragged to the capital to work? He can't shake it. Her powers blow past everything he ever imagined. With a grin, Sandra admits she once got picked to run the research lab in the capital. So Rid's doubts vanish, because it finally makes sense why she's so insanely capable. Nobody dragged Sandra into that position. She'd already earned it once years ago. She still remembers being summoned to the capital for her brilliance, until jealousy twisted someone's smile and got her thrown out. Even so, she's still bursting with pride in what he can do. Rid instantly clocks that Sandra has been waiting for something wild from him since day one. She grins and swears she always knew that if she sharpened his gift, the boy would blow his own mind. That's why she was desperate to become his mentor, until the very end when she nearly trips up and blurts that he's almost a test subject. Rid freezes, suddenly asking himself, is he a student or just a lab experiment? He agrees to keep his powers hidden, but he can't stop grumbling that Sandra could have laid everything out way earlier. She fires back with pure excitement, making it sound like society wants to trap everyone inside some neat little box. But real sparks can't be caged. With a dare burning in her eyes, she declares they'll team up and shatter every rule that common sense hands out. Our Cyrillic letter 456D decides to just ride whatever happens, but Sandra instantly clocks where his mind is going, and that little snap of insight sends a shiver through him. After everything that happened, Reed and Sandra don't slow down for a second. They keep grinding on the estate potion, then immediately test the moon herb in every way they can. Raw, cooked, and dried. The plant is brutally bitter and basically inedible, but Reed still forces a taste anyway, burning through the bitterness for his mother. Even with that awful taste, Red clenches every ounce of willpower and pushes through the experiment for her, determined to swallow the brutal bitterness of the grass. Without so much as a pause, he bravely samples each one, but the look on his face screams how brutally hard this is, and even when it hits sharp, he refuses to stop. While he was jotting down notes on every way to use Arabica, Rid couldn't stop himself. He went all in testing moon grass in every form. Tried it raw, and bitter hit him like a wall, but that sharp herbal punch still dumped a huge surge of mana into his system. It didn't just feel awful, it turned into the absolute worst possible outcome. Powdered, it still tasted awful, but once it hit his tongue, he swallowed it way easier, and the test results crowned it as the most effective. Sandra decides to get creative with that powder. She tells Rid to chew it, then lock the taste in his mouth. The bitter aftershock hits so hard it has Rid grinding through pure suffering, but Sandra clocks how stubbornly he keeps going and honestly congratulates him for pushing through. Even though it tastes absolutely vile, Sandra decides the powdered form is already safe and strong enough to use for real. Determination burned in Rid's chest as he roared in victory. At last, the monopython was finally completed. Sandra practically begs him to spill his thoughts on the flavor, and right then her playful, bright energy bursts out. Reed watches how much she's loving the whole thing, and suddenly the air feels lighter, like pure cheer just took over the room. With cheeks burning and a guilty smile, Reed gratefully thanks Sandra, promising he'll never, ever forget the kindness she showed him. The talk suddenly pivots when she cryptically teases another event and swears he'll know everything soon, then tells him to ask Melody for a clue if he wants the real details, while anxiety and sharp suspicion tighten in Reed's chest, because whatever's coming next already feels eerie and unanswered. Rid didn't expect it at all. When he stepped back inside, his little sister Mel was already waiting in the hallway for him. Rid barrels toward her, grinning like he can't contain his happiness, and she meets him with a bright smile. Nai-chan. As she pulls her brother in with open warmth, and the whole air practically glows with their bond, because up next is a heartfelt embrace that will seal their love for each other. That girl yanks away out of nowhere, snapping that his stink is too strong, and the guy is left utterly bewildered by her sudden words. Soon everyone around him scatters to the side, and Rid's eyes widen as embarrassment hits hard, leaving him stranded in the middle of the hall. One of the maids, desperate to break the tension, speaks up carefully. Your smell isn't that bad, really." One of the estate's servants barely choked back a laugh, kept his manners glued on, and delicately told Reed his clothes stank too strongly to ignore, then asked him to go take a bath. Embarrassed, Rid flashes a fake smile and grimaces through it, fighting to hide his real feelings. Inside, pure indignation ignites. He seethes, calls Sandra's name in his head, and pins it all on her, because it's her fault he's stuck swallowing this humiliation. Red stared in shock as the night shadows snapped into synchronized stretches. The calisthenics pitch he made has already sprinted straight into the nights, thanks to Rubens, and it's blowing up fast. Though Rid still thinks the whole spectacle is a little weird, he gets it. These drills don't just help you dodge injuries, they also forge teamwork, just like the commander promised. Rubens, young prodigy among the knights, doesn't just keep up with Rid, he matches his lightning-fast reactions. Right in those training sessions with him, Rid saw it. Rubens caught onto how a proper warm-up makes or breaks brutal workouts, then threw that lesson into the world by pushing calisthenics everywhere, and Rid never could have guessed it would blow up into this huge craze. While training, Reed gets yanked off track and crumples to the ground. Then Rubens comes down on him hard, warning that in a real fight, a slip like that can cost someone their life. Then he lays it out. The knights have to purge the dungeons the moment they pop up, and the second Reed hears it, his whole body buzzes with excitement. Because now a brand new world of dungeon training is opening right in front of him. Caught on the hook, the boy can't wait and blurts out, "Tell me more about this wild, fascinating mission." Rubens spills the truth. In Takarelli, deadly dungeons swallow people whole. Hunters risk their lives to grab rare materials, train their skills, or square off against secret leaders. Dungeons are forged over years as their deep cores drink in oceans of mana, until the core finally overflows. Boom, an entrance blooms, and the labyrinth ignites with monsters and treasure, luring unsuspecting land creatures straight in so they get carved up, eaten, and harvested, while the dungeon itself keeps growing stronger, bursting with life. The lineage finally uncovers the truth. Leave a dungeon alone too long and the monsters inside start piling up, until one day they bust out and unleash chaos. So nightly orders and adventurer guilds rush in to cleanse it. And right at the very bottom, buried in the dungeon's deepest core, is the heart of its power. Destroy that core to end it for good. But it's a nightmare mission. One wrong move can bring the whole dungeon crashing down. Even if you leave the core hurt, it can still vanish, quietly healing and hoarding mana, waiting to roar back when it's time for the dungeon's rebirth. Rid likens the system to an ant colony. The cores act like queens and the monsters. They're the non-stop worker ants doing all the hard work. Curious Rid leans in and demands, "Who are these multidirectional adventurers?" Rubens grins and answers that adventurers are universalists who can take on any job you throw at them. Then he lays it out. There are state guilds and private guilds, and in Magnolia's empire there's a state guild that gobbles up orders from the entire region. In Baldia, the Order of Night is out battling monsters and crawling through dungeons, so the Adventurers Guild keeps everyone busy with rare material jobs, because the messier the order, the bigger the reward. This life is way calmer, perfect for people who want easier adventures. Ruben points out it's an old tradition, and Reed practically explodes with excitement when he learns that once he joins, he'll get his very own card. The family dreams of one day striking out as adventurers, and Rubens can't wait. He vows to hone his sword skills until they're absolute perfection. Out of nowhere, Ruben blurted his opinion. Reed should marry Diana, period. And the second those words hit, confusion slammed into Reed's face like a punch, leaving him totally stunned. Red-faced, Rubens tries to dodge Diana's name and steer the talk away, but Rid won't let up, clocking that his feelings for her are real. Finally, Rubens blurts out the truth. Diana wakes him up every morning, and she even told him she'll definitely get married someday, meaning she won't always be there. That hits Rid hard. This is proof, plain and undeniable, that Diana truly cares. Still, Rubens can't stop himself from shifting the focus, grumbling that dawn is the hardest time for him to wake up. Rubens keeps telling himself Diana feels nothing for him, because every time he sees her in the kitchen, she insists it's just practice for her future marriage, not some secret meaning for him. And when she talks to her parents about marriage, she makes it crystal clear Rubens is only a friend, with no room for them to ever be anything more. So yeah, Rubens is fully convinced he has zero chance of Diana ever catching feelings. Everyone stares at Rid. He's completely mute, stuck for words, until confusion turns into rising irritation and the whole exchange starts to feel ridiculous to him, while pity for Diana quietly burns in his chest. That news about Diana and Rubens' special memories, plus the promise he made her back in childhood, hits Rid like a slap, igniting pure outrage in his chest. Eyes blazing, he jabs a finger at Rubens and demands he finally say his feelings to Diana out loud. No more delays, no more hiding, and then Rid explodes, calling him a coward for lacking the guts to make that confession when it matters most. He insists the knight is the one who should understand Diana better than anyone, but Rubens fumes and mutters about why he should even care, until Rid's words hit, and suddenly he's wondering if it's time to really think about what Diana was saying. As she sinks into her own head for the first time, she finally faces what she truly feels, while Rid clocks it. Now he has to shove Rubens into taking real decisive action. After making sure he finally got it, Rid leaned in and promised him, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay." A sly smile flickers across his face as that hilarious moment floods his mind. Then he locks the secret away. Mel clocks the change and pushes him, asking what's got him grinning. Diana watches them with wide, clueless eyes, totally lost. Rubens leads Diana back to the spot where they used to play as kids, and warm nostalgia washes over her like she's been thrown straight into those carefree years. But then her smile fades, because she can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Rubens starts to fumble, nerves taking over as his confidence slips right out of his hands. Finally, he steels himself, calls her by name, and pours every ounce of strength into confessing his feelings. As Rid had said, Rubens finally got the nerve to confess, and before long he was dating Diana. From afar he grinned, totally at ease, already imagining the two of them marching straight to the altar. Because honestly, they fit together like destiny. Reed starts the morning buried in peaceful sleep, until Mel suddenly bursts in, snapping him awake with sharp, anxious panic. She springs up with a cheerful bounce and lands right on his chest, then blurts out in pure joy, while he jerks awake, dazed, trying to say hello but still totally lost, and she just laughs out loud, grinning as she yells, "Good morning," soaking up every second of this hilarious mess. The whole family laughs that no matter how hard Mel tries to wake up earlier, she's always the one who beats everyone out of bed, and her excitement practically crackles in the air, until the second he tries to stop this ritual, and she instantly bristles, taking it personally. After breakfast, Mel hurries back to her room and dives into serious studying. She drills her reading, polishes her manners, and perfects her dance steps, leveling up every day. Rid realizes what she wants. No matter how young she is, she just wants to spend the morning right beside him, and to her, that small moment feels unbelievably priceless. Right at the estate gates, Reed meets his father and Chris, and you can feel his joy spilling out. Sure, Mel's morning teasing gets him a warm grin, but then Reed clocks it. The routine feels off. Chris steps in front of him, visibly rattled, forces a smile, and admits she's pushed through as best she can, because something tough finally came for her. The look on her face screams that she's been through hell lately, and right beside her, Rid watches Chris barely keep himself upright. Exhaustion is swallowing him whole. Chris's father tells it straight. The Empress latched onto her so hard that the whole way to the capital she kept chatting with her about state matters. No breaks, no mercy. Chris finally admits she was just wiped out from the trip. Then the father steps in, thanks her for pushing through, and tells everyone to let her crash and rest in the guest room. Later, he drags Rid into a serious talk inside his office, and once the door shuts, the father finally fixes his eyes on his son and launches into the conversation. He leans in and demands to know how his son could change so wildly in so little time. Astonishment and doubt both blazing across his face. Anirecap is totally stumped. The meaning of the question just slips out of his grasp, while his father watches him like a hawk, clocking every unusual little move. He admits he's already grilled the boy with tricky questions and piled on pressure more than once. But what really floors him is Anirecap's calm, because that kind of mature reaction isn't something you expect from a kid. Then the father leans in and goes straight for it. How did his son pull off something so complicated, like a sacrifice for the imperial couple, with zero books or instructions to guide him? At this point, it doesn't even feel like an answer. It feels like a riddle. That sinking realization slams into Rid that he can't keep lying to his father for long, and it forces him to finally sit down and speak the truth. Because with every relentless question, he knows each word has to be measured like a blade. Then, in the middle of it all, he blurts out how, after he fainted in the garden, he woke up with memories of his past life flooding his mind. Those tangled memories fused with Rid's real-life battles and forged a brand new identity, part who he was, part who he's become now. Because the past still clings to him, while his heart burns with the feelings and moments of the present Rid. Even after he gets his memories back, the brother still can't shake the guilt. How cold he used to be to his little sister and even the maids. But now that it's all clear, he isn't just regretting it anymore. He truly admires them, and he vows to grow into someone stronger. Then it hits him. These changes didn't just twist his thoughts, they rattled his heart too. He bared his real heart when he opened himself up to the only thing that could change him. His honest drive to become better. With his curiosity blazing, the light-haired boy creeps toward those towering castle doors in the quiet wing, convinced the person he wants might be lying low inside. He taps the door softly and calls out, "Chris." Then, no pause, no answer. He turns the latch with a careful hand and slips inside. Eyes sharp and wary, he scans the room like something about to strike, slipping deeper inside with silent, careful steps. So quiet it feels like he's trying to vanish in the dark. Then his face lights up with real curiosity as he calls Chris for the second time. The second he stepped over the threshold, he spotted Chris sprawled in a deep sleep, and once he was sure she was really out cold, he slowly took in her peaceful face. He notices how wrecked she looks, stares at her face in shocked silence, completely spellbound by her beauty, while Chris shifts in bed and mumbles in his sleep. And he's in zero rush to ruin the moment, watching her calmly with a soft, curious intrigue. Chris watched her sleep, and then the main character jolted awake in shock as she twitched, mumbling words he couldn't make out. Her dreams looked heavy, like something was hurting her, Concern flooded her voice as she called out to someone. The young man's heart slammed against his ribs, and his mind started racing. What was she seeing in that nightmare? He caught bits of her half-whispers and froze, unease creeping in until he wondered if he should keep listening to her dreams at all. He slips toward the door like a ghost, then stops dead. Nothing, not a single inch, the door won't move. His shock hits like lightning, and he can't ignore it. Someone on the other side is holding it shut on purpose. The door suddenly creaks open and the silence shatters. There she is, eyes burning with a stern stare. The boy snaps to attention, freezes for a second, then his jaw drops when he realizes she isn't a visitor at all. It's a boy who casually scolds him for what he's doing. At the same time, Chris finally fights his way back to reality, feeling it. Something's unfolding in that room. Meanwhile, right outside the door, the hero keeps pushing, begging Mel to open it, and insisting he just wanted to make sure everything's okay with Chris. Then Mel snaps back, cold and stern, that barging into a girl's room without permission is plain bad manners. With a grin, he pressures her to open the door before Chris catches on, and Mel puts on a sarcastic show of hesitation, acting like she's weighing her choice. Should she help him or shut him down? This crushes him even harder, so he bolts into hurried apologies, stomach churning as he spirals over what just happened. Blushing, she jolts awake and blurts out an apology. She'd fallen asleep from sheer exhaustion, still stunned that she let it happen here, while the hero lets out a relieved smile, thankful he dodged getting caught earlier, and quickly soothes her. You don't need to worry at all. Soon, Chris starts spilling everything about her trip to the capital. Endless talks with the Empress, a crucial meeting with Count Roland, and even the games other people played to bury the truth. Her listener hangs on every word, and when she's done, he blurts out that his father never told him a thing. Then he thanks Chris from the bottom of his heart for telling it straight. The very next day, the Emperor swings his decision down on Count Roland, demanding he pay reparations for the insult aimed at Chris, completely clueless that she's a noble foreigner. And just like that, the Count's stuck in the most awkward spotlight in the whole court, until Chris shocks everyone by refusing to take the compensation. The expected answer never comes. She shuts it down cold and says she has a request instead. The Emperor leans in, curious about what she wants, and tells her she can speak without holding back. Chris goes ice calm and laser-focused, preparing to finally unveil her real purpose. At the court walls, Chris storms in and calls everyone out. Stop swallowing rumors and start sharing only what's verified, because gossip can stain the Magnolia Empire's name in front of the whole world. Her sharp, confident words hit the room like a punch, and Roland, of all people, couldn't hide his shock, while Chris ended it by telling everyone to treat this moment as a brutal lesson and figure out the right conclusions for themselves. After Chris's words hit, one of the nobles finally admits the blunder, slams out an apology for everyone, and begs for forgiveness. Because the subordinates never got the right instructions, yet Chris doesn't flinch. He keeps a sharp, careful eye on every twist as the chaos unfolds. Later, in a laid-back chat, she admits she might have totally crossed a line by giving that speech right in front of all the nobility, and the main character just leans in, feeling every word and realizing how brutal that moment must have been for her. Then the story drives home how Chris straight-up fixed the mess by loading the blame not just on Roland, but on the whole aristocracy. While they're talking, the main character blurts out that Count Roland's allies are getting crushed fast after that last incident, and he can't help wondering what comes next. So he asks if Chris plans to just sit back and let the Count make his next move. For a second, he catches himself admiring her, calling her a real heroine, brilliant, fearless. Then he panics and clamps down the moment she senses his reaction. In fact, with total calm, Chris studies the whole situation in silence, because Roland isn't just some ordinary count. This guy controls trade like a weapon, cuts shady deals with a straight face, and fights for every power grab he can get, and she knows he'll be the biggest wall in their way if they want their business to grow. The protagonist can't help but believe her, because once you see that kind of drive, you wouldn't even want enemies like Roland on your most clueless rival. Flooded with pure joy from the deal closing, the main character thanks Chris with all their heart, saying Chris's being there. And Christie's company on the Baldia estate was straight up fate's gift, and then Chris, totally caught off guard, lets her emotions hit her like a sudden wave. She looks back and realizes every ounce of effort just slid into nothing, no matter how hard she pushed, stuck feeling like an outsider while everyone else belonged. False hope collapses, then, boom, unexpected warmth floods in when the main character's words hit her straight in the heart. She answers carefully, calling the moment an honor she never saw coming, but inside, real gratitude keeps swelling because meeting him, and sharing this short, life-tilting second right beside him, means more than she can say. Reed can't shake what Count Roland said about Kreese, how he swaggered in and insulted her as an old witch for walking out of the Saffron Company, and her whole team is still in his head. Kreese was born into a family where the business takeover was meant to go to her older brother, but her killer entrepreneurial spark blew past every expectation, even his. At first, she tried to stay hidden, silently backing him from the shadows of the company, until judgment and gossip crashed in so hard that she finally snapped, forged her own future, and built the Christie Company. Rumors spiraled and the pressure cranked up, and fear took over, because if people turned on her, her family's business could shatter right in front of her. So she refused to sit still and chose independence. Without stealing clients from her family, she built her own company in Baldia, fresh lands where Elven Enterprises still hadn't even set foot. Even with serious talent, kicking off his journey in a foreign country hit like a brick wall, progress crawled, and those long months dragged by with zero real progress or recognition. That's when he finally showed up, right when Kreese was clawing to build her company, despite her unstoppable talent. The main character suddenly stepped into her path, and his calm, confident gaze with that almost hidden smile jolted the whole moment back to life. Kreese thinks back and realizes talent alone can't get you what you want, but the moment it showed up, everything flipped, because she's buried in memories now, rethinking the road Kreese chose. To her, it's like fate itself stepped in and repaid her hard-working friend for every ounce of effort, day after day, even when no results were showing yet. Because every single day lived was one more step toward victory. In my mind, it flashes back, how the butler only brought up Christie's company because Chris's mess in Baldia somehow dragged influence into it. I don't say a word, but I'm praying his words hit hard because I can't stand watching her humiliate herself like that. With a warm, reassuring smile, the main character speaks to Kreese and tells her loud and clear that every victory she's earned is fully hers. No shortcuts, no luck. Then he leans in and fires her up, pushing her to trust her own power and believe she can do anything. Kreese's eyes widen, pure shock hits, and emotion flares across her face. She's so overwhelmed she blurts out to stop, stunned that all these compliments are really meant for her. Her face says it all. Those words hit her like lightning. The main character's speech sinks straight into Kreese's soul, and suddenly her whole life plays in her mind. Non-stop struggle, sleepless nights, and obstacle after obstacle she fought through with everything she had. That one honest compliment almost breaks her, like this is the exact recognition she's been starving for. And when happiness crashes in, Kreese blurts out her thanks, smiling wide, shaking with tears and trying and failing, not to look completely overwhelmed. Kreese steadies herself, flips into a sharp business voice, and lays out every term of the deal. First month, Majesty gets priority on the goods, then the rest hits the market, no more special perks on extra orders, and every payment must be made up front. Rid listens hard, presses for the nitty-gritty on Majesty's priority rights, and Kreese confidently assures her it's all locked in, so her satisfied smile slips out before she can stop it. Doubts still claw at him. Was that generous promise way too soon? After all, the analog is just getting off the ground. Still, he clings to one lifeline. His father can always come through with extra ingredients. And right now, the work is sprinting forward. With pure chaos in his voice, the man kicks off the aloe collection. He's already locked in deals with Christie and Saffron, signed contracts with the farmers, and even hauled wild aloe in through foreign guilds, all before the market's price spike hits. The main character is blown away by how fast he moves, and he admits the timing couldn't be more perfect. The refined lady points out they've got a mountain of work waiting to carry out Her Majesty's orders, then teasingly tells Chris not to forget her, because she's the company's face, and she still expects top-quality products. Right in the middle of their chat, Reed suddenly blurts out how stunning Chris looks, saying someone like her is nearly impossible to find, and any man would practically dream of having her as his representative. Then Chris freezes, mortified, can't even find the words, and snaps back at him to watch his expression. Confused, Rid stays on guard, but then she insists, full force. She's unbelievably beautiful, and this makeup doesn't just cover her face, it amplifies her charm, so everyone will be absolutely thrilled. Chris was so embarrassed by the heartfelt praise that he tried to dodge the topic, cheeks burning red like a beet. But the talk kept rolling, and the company started naming their next products. Body cream Christie and conditioner Christie Emma. When Chris realized the names were picked in their honor, he felt like he could melt, while Emma lit up, pleasantly shocked. Then the friends kicked around how to grow the lineup, saying the conditioner could still be whipped up with essential oils even without olives, and the body cream didn't have to stay stuck in one version. The ingredients and scents could be swapped and bold as they wanted. Inspiration crashes over crease, and fresh product ideas explode in her head one after another. Then she makes it official. Starting now, she'll negotiate with the Empress herself, and if Radu ever needs a hand, he can come to her. Radu just nods, calm as ever, and agrees. The moment Kreese Panic heard Empress Matilda's name, memories slammed in. This magnificent, ice-cold woman whose power nobody ever questioned. At the same time, Rid, hanging on to every word, got lost in his own whirlwind of thoughts about the ruler no one could truly figure out. Rid just shrugged, baffled by Chris's sudden panic, then flashed an ironic grin and said it was smart to keep distance from anyone who could plant fear even in your dreams, eyes clearly pointing at the Empress, and even he had to laugh at how truly terrifying that sounded. A sharp hush drops over the room as Chris shoots up his eyebrows and blurts out, for the first time, "How do you know she moans in her sleep?" The whole family goes rigid, too late because he's already let it slip, and now they scramble to patch the mess, but they can't save it. Caught in the act, Red snaps up to meet Chris's icy stare, and the moment she realizes he'd been watching her at her most vulnerable, indignation hits like a punch. She erupts in furious rage, screaming that he's a scoundrel for peeping at her while she was asleep, cheeks blazing with shame and anger as that stormy energy swells, ready to slam into him with a full-on torrent of emotion. Rid's face went hot, and he hurriedly scribbled together an excuse, swearing he only meant to mess with him a little. Everything else was just pure coincidence, he insisted. Meanwhile, a maid pushed into the room with a fresh tray of tea, and right behind her came Mel, gripping her favorite toy like it was life itself. Rid, rattled, begs Mel to believe he didn't mean harm when he caught her asleep, but she just stares at him and makes him wait. Chris is still seething and starting to lose control, and the maid has to hold him back. Then Mel, steady as stone, shuts Rid down instantly and says it wasn't a coincidence at all. For ages, Rid kept staring at Kreese, frozen in sleep beneath some cruel spell, and the second it hit him, despair swallowed him whole. He burst out, yelling for Mel, begging her to throw him even the tiniest scrap of help, but the moment was already gone, and in an instant the air turned suffocating, replaced by a silence so heavy it felt like it could crush you. A single drop of water sliced through the dark, and right then, inevitable punishment was about to start. In the blackness of the room, the woman jolts awake and gulps for air like her lungs are on fire, her heart hammering with pure dread as her thoughts spiral out of control. And even though she's known the water drop technique forever, panic still claws at her until she can't get it right. Breath hitching in her chest, she clamps a hand over her mouth, and then her palm stains red, horrific, bloody spots staring back at her like a warning for something deadly. Still, even as pain grips her, she balls her fists and swears she'll never fold, no matter what comes for her. She collapses onto the bed, hands clamped to her chest, eyes blazing with resolve. Then she makes a vow to herself. Even with exhaustion crushing her, she swears she'll stand tall again, one day, no doubt. Tears spill as she looks around and tells everyone. With her own strength, she'll get back on her feet, no matter how long it takes, and no matter what pain she has to survive. Still reeling from the shock and barely able to breathe, she's sprawled on her bed, coughing between deep, heavy gasps, until the panic finally loosens its grip and she whispers, "I'm done for today," trying to steady herself. A faint knock barely made a sound, and with a tired smile, she swings the door open. She'd already done it. Then the whole vibe shifts to slow, careful footsteps as someone tiptoes across the threshold and eases into the room. After a polite knock, 3 guests slip into the room. When the woman in the bed weakly looks up, a tiny smile flickers across her face, and even though she's still drained, she apologizes for her appearance. She beams at everyone and introduces herself as Nunel Baldia, the wife of Marquis Rienner. And as another guest flashes the same warm smile, the whole room suddenly turns into a pocket of real, genuine friendliness. Among the guests, a woman slips into view, Sandra Ernest, a magic researcher with nerves of steel, and her son just stares in disbelief, because he'd never guessed his mom could glide through society with such flawless grace. The man by the bed slowly swivels toward the sick woman, his voice heavy with seriousness, and with a flood of regret he finally cracks, admitting he didn't have the nerve before, and that he's been keeping the truth about her illness from her until this very moment. A hard, stern look locks onto his face. Then, finally, he spills the full truth to Nanali. The sickness she's fighting is called monodeficiency, and he lays it out straight. It can't be cured, it ends in death. The room feels heavy as Nanelli stays silent, then quietly chooses to face that brutal truth head-on. Shock hits him the moment that confession drops out of nowhere. He stares in disbelief and demands who told Nanali the truth, and she just smiles, calm as ever, saying she'd known everything all along. The girl speaks softly, but every word lands. She knows her body better than anyone, and before anyone even names the disease, she's already clocked the truth. It's something incurable. Then a calm smile breaks through, and she gently asks him not to carry his anger or a grudge toward anyone. No confessions came, she didn't need words, her heart just knew. Nanelli stays calm even as the cruel truth lands in full force, monodeficiency. Yeah, it's deadly serious and there's no cure, but when she hears it at last, relief floods her, because the mystery is finally over. Rid just watches in silence, and tears burn at the corners of his eyes, because in this terrifying moment, he sees his mother's real strength. With a bright little smile, she teases that she must be a pretty lousy mom if she's got her own son worrying this much. Then she whips around to Rid with quick, sincere apologies, admitting just how brutal this whole trial has been on him. Reed's voice shakes with pure resolve as he fires back at his mother. She's no failed mother, and if anyone crushed him, it was his father. One memory hits like a punch. The day his dad finally admitted he messed up, and that thought ignites raw fury in Reed. Sandra tries to wrest control of the situation, firing off words that this kind of talk doesn't belong here, but she still admits it. Rado's father is painfully strict, especially with his own family. While everyone else argues, Nanali just keeps that warm smile, joking with her son and gently pushing him to call her Mel, like that's the only name that matters, and she's totally unbothered. Piece by piece, the tension slips away until the whole scene clicks into a real family paradise. Rid bursts with despair, hurls a brutal question at his father. Did he ever stop to think how alone and helpless her mother must have felt all these years? And while Rid's father stays quiet, guilt snaps tight around his heart. He buried himself and worked to dodge the truth. The sickness signs were there for ages, but he never found the courage to look them in the eye, and through it all, she carried the weight by herself. None of these men had ever dropped to their knees in repentance, admitting a massive mistake. Yet she only gave a gentle smile and said she didn't want to be a burden, and Ariak quickly soothed her, assuring her there was nothing to worry about. With emotions crashing through him, the hero blurts out his love to her, and Nunnally meets his eyes with a gentle smile as she confesses. Her heart is his, too. In a burst of real reconciliation, tenderness floods the air as their words finally click. Then after the emotions crash through, Sandra snaps her focus back to what's actually going on. With a fearless grin, she strides up and shoves a vial of potion into Non-Ally's hands, saying it isn't medicine, but it'll still ease the symptoms of monodeficiency a little. She tells her to dilute it with water because the taste is brutally sharp. Even with coughing fits racking her, Non-Ally grabs the potion and drinks anyway, and Red just stares in shock at her bold move. Barely managing to swallow the potion, Nully twists in searing pain. She groans, then starts to choke and suffocate. Panic hits as Rid rushes to her, eyes locked on her every breath, and calls out to his mother in a frantic voice. Germana's ragged, shaky breaths hammer home how bad it is, and Germana knows it. So right away, with eyes locked in panic, he snaps the order. Measure her indicators immediately. An unknown disaster is hanging over her head, and he understands one thing. If they don't move now, it's going to be too late. Stunned, Rid suddenly realizes his mother's mana supply is nearly gone. Only 8 left. And panic rips through him as he shouts at Sandra to hurry and get the medicine. Sandra is knocked speechless by what's happening, but she snaps into action on the spot, barely breathing herself, while Nanelli fights for every gulp of air, gasping hard as if she's about to pass out, and Sandra rushes in fast, shoves the fresh medication into her hand, and demands she take it right now as Nanelli's strength starts to slip away. Sandra Harry clings to her, begging her, shaking, desperate, to open her mouth and swallow the medicine. The whole room feels soaked in despair. Reed watches with a heart that aches and tears that won't stop, blurting out to his mother again and again, fighting with every ounce of strength, "Don't you dare give up." Seconds drag like lifetimes, while everyone around them battles to save her life. With his final ounce of strength, Nanelli screams for help before his eyes roll shut. Then despair crushes him, tears pour as he bellows for his mother at the top of his lungs, overwhelmed by pure pain and terror. He fights through it, rushing toward her, refusing to accept the worst. At the most critical second, the universe flipped the script. An explosive burst of blinding light erupted around them, and everyone there froze solid, staring in pure shock. In pure despair, Rhaenyra clutches Nunnally's unconscious body to his chest, holding her with every last ounce of strength he has left. Right now, memory yanks him straight back to the past, back to the moment he first met Nanally, when he was still only Arwen's assistant. Back then, all he ever wanted was a shining career in the capital, never once realizing that one woman would twist his fate so wildly. Arwen slips in like a whisper, wig pulled over her face as she lines up to slip through the city in secret, and Rainer, eyeing her with pure skepticism, questions whether this check even makes sense, but Arwen snaps back that she's got two big reasons. He heads out to see how the city's doing and to hunt down a gift for his wife. While Rainer, stunned, replays the last explanation in his head, and Arwen stays cool, insisting he truly has a big reason for it. Arwen tells him she won't hand the gift choice off to anyone, because that personal touch makes the gesture hit like it means something. Then she teases. Rhaenyra will get it one day, right when it's time for him to marry. Soon, Arwen blurts out the one truth that crushes every hope. His father's health is slipping fast, so there's no way he can return to state affairs, and in just a few years he'll have to grab the royal crown whether he's ready or not. Those quick getaways will vanish, and for Rhaenyra this news hits like a thunderclap. Seriousness dawns all at once, and it's terrifying. Arwen wears a soft smile and declares that in his soul, he'll safeguard what matters most, and before he climbs onto the throne, he's determined to etch those precious things into his memory and cherish them forever. Arwen turns to Rhaenyra and thanks him for walking with him through the city, making it clear he treasures even small moments with a friend. Rhaenyra starts to apologize, but Arwen cuts in with a calm, firm, "It's okay," because this is something he has to handle alone. Arwen asks to step out, and Rhaenyra not only lets her go, he flat-out warns her not to push herself too hard, right as a chilling scream tears through the room. Someone's being summoned to stop it, while another person gets pinned down by a guard, and Rhaenyra stays ice calm, barking a few sharp orders the instant it happens. Guard Dinas is stuck watching Arwen while an enraged prisoner is shouting for freedom, and then, right in a cramped alley, a cocky stranger suddenly steps in front of her, catching Arwen off guard for real. He clamps onto her wrist, bursts into laughter, and demands they pick up the talk they cut off. Right now. She snaps back in full fury, shouting that she's already officially shut him down and that she has nothing left to say to a smug, self-absorbed jerk. With those sinister smiling men closing in, headed by the very same one who'd already harassed her, she suddenly goes stone still, terror swallowing the air. Her eyes pop wide, and her body jolts backward on instinct, desperate to get as far from the danger as she can. He clamps both hands on her face and shuts out her cries for help, then tells her a car is coming to haul them away, vowing coldly that he'll force her to swallow the exact same shame he once lived through, soaking up every terrified look she throws his way. With one ruthless hand, the attacker clamps over the woman's voice, then play acts like they're lovers, calling her his beloved, until a man strides up and cautiously demands what's going on. Looking straight at the woman, he says, "Madam," urges her to speak the truth, and creates a clean path out of the trap. Finally, the woman snaps, and when her voice crashes through the room, she screams for help and fights back against the lies, insisting none of these people are her lover. Even with a rough grip on her, she doesn't break. She exposes the fraud and the brutal truth with fearless grit. Meanwhile, the man in glasses who showed up earlier finally understands how dangerous this has gotten. With full confidence and iron resolve, he swears, right there and then, that he'll do everything he can to get her out alive. He hears her heartfelt plea and snaps back, "As you wish," then goes right into action without wasting a second. With long hair and a fearless stare, the tall man snaps the argument shut. He says he's got nothing left to say, then barks at the attacker to get out. The bruised, humiliated man strains up, lifting his head like he can't afford to lose what's left of his pride. Then he roars, "I'm Logus from the Gelano family. This story won't end that easily." She slips away without a soul noticing, and the woman he just saved crumples into tears of pure relief, thanking him like she can't believe he showed up, because she'd stopped hoping anyone would come, even after she screamed. Rhaenyra asks her right away if she's hurt. He's blown away by her courage. She hangs on until the very end. Then a huge, bald brute explodes into the room, yelling Rhaenyra's name and snapping with concern over her safety. In the dark of the background, someone watches with obvious relief, while a woman leans in, watching Rhaenyra as he jokes and begs Dinas not to yell his name so loud. And when she finally speaks to him, she shows him respect with a Rhaenyra sama, smiling warmly as she realizes just how kind and thoughtful he really is. After months of calm, the world suddenly flips, because out of nowhere, the main character gets hit with shocking news. He's been proposed to, and he didn't even see it coming. Turns out Matilda herself teamed up with his parents to set the whole thing in motion. Even with everyone watching him like a hawk, he flips through the document and swears the truth. The handwriting is 100% his father's. Right after that, another young guy shows up and waves a letter of confirmation, like everything's suddenly gone completely official. The hero finally gets the shock of a lifetime. His fiancée is tied to a marriage of convenience, and it's none other than the legendary Red Lady, Nana Lyarnos. Everyone everywhere is obsessed with her breathtaking beauty, but she's also infamous for turning down every single proposal for her hand and heart. And even with all that legend, the boy admits he's never actually got the chance to meet her face to face. Out of nowhere, a majestic mansion looms in the background, screaming that the long-awaited meeting is about to kick off right here. At first glance, he realizes the girl in front of him is the very one fate had dragged into his life long ago. He can't even believe it, and the shock hits him like lightning as this impossible reunion unfolds. As he leans in, he can't believe it. Her beauty crushes every memory he has. Nane tilts her head and answers in a soft voice, a small smile slipping out. She never thought she'd see him again either. In the middle of the official talk, the hero tries to honor Nanali and praises her as the Crimson Lady to the bone. Then the stunned girl shoots back. Wait, what exactly did you mean by that? Realizing exactly why she was confused, the young man blurts out that his words weren't weird at all. He was praising her blazing, beautiful hair, and making it crystal clear he was standing before an insanely charming woman. Nanali freezes with a sharp gasp, and warmth creeps into her cheeks. Flustered to the core, she snaps to her feet and blurts out frantic explanations. How she once turned down a guy's advances, and he retaliated by spreading rumors that her refusal was actually because she'd supposedly criticized him harshly. After that, whispers ripped through the crowd, and people everywhere started calling her the Crimson Lady. So the main character just shot a stunned look, totally clueless where that name even came from. Meanwhile, she turned bright red, clutching her hands over her face, mortified by the whole thing. When Nanali realizes Red Lady is being said with genuine admiration, not ridicule, her heart gets knocked for a loop. Joy surges onto her face in a bright, warm smile, and she finally understands it's the real thing. The main character finally admits he's completely under her spell, and the way he shows his admiration is so real it makes her glow. Just like that, the tension melts away, and a warm, easy calm settles over them. The protagonist bluntly demands that Nanali come with him to Baldia, the estate owned by his wife. The moment she heard him, her face lit up in a sweet, charming smile, and she didn't even think twice. She immediately agreed, telling him she'd happily go if that's what he really wanted. The second Nanali swallows that medicine, it feels like the whole world flips the switch. Yep, this is where their relationship officially starts, and the tension in the air skyrockets as everyone braces, holding their breath for what's coming next. With inspiration blazing in his voice, the hero orders an immediate measurement of the mono, convinced everything is about to shift for the better. The researcher holds his breath and watches like it's life or death, trusting the medicine will finally work. Meanwhile, the boy shuts his eyes and prays, quiet as a whisper begging fate, please let her mono answer this time. The measurement snaps out a wild surprise. Nanella's sitting on a full 101 mana right now, and the crowd goes silent, then erupts in pure joy, cheering like they just witnessed a miracle. Relief hits the protagonist like a wave when he realizes the medicine actually worked. She stirs, shakes off the panic, manages a faint smile, and calls out for her husband in a soft voice. The very next second, the boy can't stop himself anymore. Tears spill, he barrels into her arms, squeezes her tight, and joy bursts through his whisper as he cries, Mom. With pure relief glowing on her face, Nanella says she finally feels way better. Then the protagonist breaks down, tears pouring as he screams her name at the top of his lungs and rushes straight to his mother, who he's seen hurt for years, only to find her smiling, healthy, and finally okay. After that brutal surprise attack, they ripped the protagonist's mother into an emergency checkup. Doctors rushed in fast, and everyone in the room immediately agreed on non-stop treatment with mana potion, with 3 doses every single day, while staff stayed on duty around the clock, ready to sprint into action the moment anything went wrong. Wild recovery. 1 single dose snapped him back with a full 100 mana units restored, and the overwhelmed protagonist credits every bit of his rebound to Ryunur-sama's relentless care and support. Ryunur's wild insight hit instantly. He already knew the woman couldn't manage her medication alone anymore. So without a second thought, he bit the potion, swished it with water in his mouth, and fed it lip to lip, while the main character stared at his father in disbelief, utterly stunned by that raw speed and nerve. At the same time, he tried to keep talking with Sandra, carefully asking why she wasn't joining the family for dinner. With a sly grin, the main character tells everyone to clear out, so the lovers finally get some privacy. Ryunur stays at Nanali's bedside, and even with shyness choking her, she doesn't look away. In the back, Sandra slips out with the hero, letting the couple breathe alone. That night inside the palace, the advisors were buzzing, tearing into a letter that carried a marriage proposal. People are uneasy about taking that letter without a single comment, it feels like a slap in the face. But the Empire doesn't play games. It keeps its word by sending a representative with the same high rank. And one advisor points out the timing is way too perfect, like the son of Amarkwi showing up right now was planned on purpose. Running into someone nearly the same age as the princess isn't just luck. These meetings always hide a sharp political move. The king nods his approval for the Marquis's visit and snaps the room into place. This kingdom asked to find a bride, so nobody gets to play reject on the choice they already picked. He realizes that if anything goes wrong with the tent, everything could swing wildly, and while that tension hangs in the air, one of the advisors keeps staring in silence, eyes sharp with suspicion and anxiety. Even though the king green-lights the visit, everyone still wonders if the Marquis's son is truly worthy of the princess. Because right in the crowd, there's someone watching with a cold, piercing stare, already spinning dark plans. That sly grin gives him away. He's already lining up his moves, ready to test the young guest's plan, or slam the brakes on it the moment he feels like it. With golden hair, the young hero strolls beside a poised, older woman, and she teases him right from his last remark, laughing at how he told someone to leave lovers alone. Then her eyes narrow as she studies him up close, and she realizes the truth. His body looks young, but something underneath doesn't. Her words hit him like a punch to the gut, and he sputters out a nervous laugh, denying the suspicion in a rush. Right after that, the woman snaps to a new topic. She pitches the wild idea of inventing a brand new kind of magic and teaming up to build it together. The air turns heavy as she cradles a mysterious object in her hands, her face saying this is no joke. This is the real deal. The amazed boy goes still, eyes wide with wonder and curiosity, while the main character guides the woman straight to the mysterious doors. Then grins, swings them open, and the magical key slips into the lock like it's meant to be, revealing an unexplored space beyond. He finally admits it. He's trying to forge a brand new spell with her worries and memory, a magical thread that links to recollections. She steps after him, all curiosity, while the strange glow from the other side washes over their path. As they head down the bright corridor, he remembers the crazy theory he once heard in a past life. The brain never truly forgets. So yeah, there's nothing to panic about. With every memory locked away in the back of his mind, he stares down his reincarnation and realizes he still has the proof from his past life untouched. That sparks a wild thought. Maybe the brain isn't just tied to the body, but to the soul itself. He starts connecting it to magic, imagining a spell that could reach into a soul's past. Then his eyes harden. He blurts the idea out and demands to know if charms like that even exist. The woman's words hit like lightning, because what the main guy suggests drags up an old, world-shaking scientific theory. The divine path behind life magic, and the young man can't wait. He immediately starts peppering her with questions for every last detail. She talks about a rare philosophy stitched from the core ideas of ancient teachings, and this secret path only appears to the chosen. The moment he snaps into awareness, everything clicks. Where mana is born, life force charts an unseen road straight to the gods, and as he wrestles with that truth, he starts linking it to his own ideas, believing it's exactly the missing piece behind the memory magic he's trying to build. The hero blurts out a wild plan. Instead of chasing the usual mana transformations, he wants the full opposite, an insane, brand-new route with no safety net. The woman freezes in shock, straight up admitting she can't even picture what would happen if he tries. Still, fear claws at her, and she warns him not to push it too far. Then the young man just stands there, lays his hand over his chest, feels that gut-deep pull again, and finally realizes he's touching the edge of his own soul. Maybe this is where its real spark lives. Caught up in the magical experiment, the hero drops into a meditative stance, then follows the steps like a vow. He squeezes life energy into mana and pushes that current deeper into his own body, all while the woman watching every move stays right in his focus. Fired up by what he's seeing, he decides to gamble and go even further. With raw willpower, he hammers energy into himself. Sure, nothing shows on the outside yet, but inside his mind a question ignites. Can mana be poured back into life force? If it can, then maybe the newborn life energy is exactly what the soul is waiting for, its true purpose ready to be awakened. While he meditated, a weird tug suddenly yanked his mana toward the unknown, like an invisible hand was stealing it right out from under him. Then, out of nowhere, a rushing ribbon of energy flashed before his eyes and got dragged straight into a mysterious rift that had just ripped open in front of him. And that gut-wrenching shock made his instincts scream that danger was already here. Because his worst premonition told him something was terribly wrong, and it could easily get him killed. He wakes up and blinks in shock, because he's suddenly in some mysterious place. Then he looks up and sees steaming bookshelves floating all around him, like an endless library stretching to the horizon. Lost in his thoughts, he suddenly hears a voice he knows. His heart jumps. He whips his head around, and there, closing in, comes a shadowy figure he can't explain. Right before his eyes, a figure bursts into view, so close to him it's terrifying. Stunned, he blurts, "Who are you?" Then realizes the stranger is staring back at him as his own reflection comes to life. A calm smile creeps onto the boy's face, and he slowly declares himself the living embodiment of memories, then makes it crystal clear. This place is built to drag the images of your old life back to the surface. As his name, he offers the word memory, and honestly, that's exactly what he is. The main character is confused, but there's no exit in sight, so he moves toward the stranger, knowing he has to play along if he wants to push forward. The hero lunges after his stolen memories, like hunting answers online, until a mysterious memory answers back. This won't be easy, but it's doable if he's the one you call. He swears he can dig up anything about this world, and from that point on, the hero can summon him anytime. But then memory drops the warning. Regular people aren't allowed to be here. Still, the main character slips into that space the special way, and the amazed boy can't stop wondering how he'll pull it off again later. Memory tells him all he needs is mana, since the hero's great at it. Yet before any of that happens, he steps closer and hits him with the truth. There's one crucial condition they have to state first. The memory hits him hard. Sure, getting here felt way too easy, but this place is paper-thin and about to break, because he's standing in the very core of his own soul. And that warning is brutal. Never come back alone, not ever, because the danger is waiting right in the shadows. With a soft smile and a voice like a vow, he promises he'll be there the moment the call comes, right when it matters. The main character grins and thanks him for the support, and their friends share one warm, quiet gesture like a heartfelt goodbye. Then, just like that, the memory slips away, but it leaves a glowing mark in the heart and a simple, sincere goodbye hanging in the air. The woman watches everything in stunned silence. Then her eyes suddenly flare wide as something weird pulls her attention. Panic spikes, and she blurts out to the main character, asking all breathless if he's okay. A sudden jolt rips the boy awake, and he scrambles up, blinking in total confusion like, "Where am I?" Then he spots an unexpected pair in the room. They freeze, snap into screams, and panic erupts on both sides, turning the whole place into chaotic, hilarious bedlam as they scramble to figure out what just happened. After that terrifying fright, the woman grabbed Sandro's attention and asked what the heck happened to him. Sandro tried to play it cool, but she snapped at him not to bury his feelings. His silence had her worried, and that's why she showed up. Still, when Sandro let out that sudden scream, it honestly took her by surprise. He finally realizes he's been out for ages, so he shoots her a worried look and asks how he's doing. Then, cheeks burning, he thanks her, fumbles through an apology, and admits he must have scared her. Doubts claw at the main character's chest, and he can't decide whether to spill the truth to Sandra, until he snaps and lies, saying he failed like it's no big deal. Sandra just sighs, like she already expected nothing would be guaranteed. But inside his head, memory keeps screaming. That place buried deep in his soul was dangerous, one wrong move, and he could have been trapped there forever. And still those fears, he keeps them locked up tight. He slips back into the room and turns toward memory, holding his breath, just to find out if it'll answer back. The voice hits his mind instantly, blasting proof that the connection works even across a huge distance. Surprise written all over his face, as the hero admits it really works. Right then, memory swings in with a carefree grin, saying she's just relieved to see him safe and sound. He finally confessed. He wasn't really hunting answers yet, just testing whether it was even possible, and boom, it worked. Now he can pull up his memories anytime he wants. By the towering gates, goodbye hits different. He leans in and promises he'll always be there, just call his name anytime. Soon he slips into one of the wards with a bright, radiant smile, asking how his mother's doing. Sandra, standing watch over the nearby woman, answers with total confidence that everything's fine, and the medication was picked with care. The boy's mother thanks her, and you can see it hit home. Her condition has gotten way better thanks to the treatment. His eyes lock onto his mother as she chats with Sandra, and inside his chest a steel-hard need ignites. He has to find a cure, not just to save the person he loves most, but to free everyone trapped by this sickness. The memory of that terrifying day where death nearly swallowed his mother crashes back like a nightmare, and since then Sandra has been her constant doctor. And the wild part, Sandra isn't just kind. She's a researcher of magic, trained in life energy through mana, the exact kind of expert who's ready to go to war against this creeping disease. Meanwhile, Sandra locks eyes with him and instantly wonders if rude thoughts are rolling around in his head. And the moment he flusters, he blurts out a denial so fast he almost trips, trying to bury that tiny, ironic smirk beneath her fake innocence. His mother studied him, right down to the tension in his shoulders, and asked if he was okay, only for him to snap out of his thoughts and swear he was just lost in deep thinking. She immediately warned him not to push himself too hard, and that's when the memory hit his private meeting with Rainer. The moment she thought of it, the hero's eyes widened. It was finally time. He confirmed he'd been summoned, and before he even stepped out, his mother smiled and asked him to pass her regards to Rainer. He lit up with excitement, shot back a lively, "Yes," and rushed off, saying goodbye with full energy. A stern man slams down the news. After all this time, the schedule for the main character's trip to Renarat is finally approved. The news hits the boy like a lightning strike. His eyes pop wide, breath caught, waiting to explode with excitement, because deep in his chest, a storm finally breaks, like the moment he's been dreaming of for ages is here. At last, the main character blurts out the truth. He didn't just wander to Renarat, he chased a cure for his mother's illness, the real reason behind everything. But then a brutal wall slams into him. To forge the Manhwa elixir, the moonlight herb is essential, and it's locked away, not for public use. It can't be grown, and the only known stash is guarded under Chris's company. So now this young man can't risk selling that elixir to the public, because the past keeps haunting him, and those memories whisper that Renarat is a country stacked with advanced farming tech. That's where he thinks he'll dig up the truth, find the right leads, and secure a steady supply of that herb so he can finally push everything forward. The second the main character hears Renarat might have ulterior motives, his guard snaps up, because he's told King Elias is pushing hard to keep friendly ties. A bunch of his subordinates are already pushing back on this planned marriage, and he can't stop worrying. If those unhappy vassals get restless enough, they might try to shove him into breaking the alliance. It hit him all at once. If they strip him of the right to marry the princess, some other royal blood will step into this honorable niche in a heartbeat. And even though he knows some vassals are just trying to restore balance between the kingdoms, he can already see how, once things go too far, that so-called balance can flip into a deadly power game. Stuck in a storm of racing questions, the main character blurts to his father, "Where did you learn all this about the fight inside Renaruta?" And his father answers at once, saying, "No nation is ruled by one unified will, and borrowed knowledge won't save a soul trying to defend their own land." After catching one crucial detail, the boy instantly realizes his father has to be getting intel from somewhere, and he's right. The man nods, promises to uncover everything step by step, and even praises his son for being sharp. Then the boy, still smiling, asks him not to dump too much knowledge all at once. But inside, he can't stop himself from geeking out because the truth finally clicks. There's a spy in Renarut's inner circle, feeding his father information. Then someone else looks over the whole political mess and says, "Yeah, the king's message is clear, but the situation keeps getting more complicated." They brace themselves before the mighty empire of Magnolia, right across from the son of Rainer Baldia, the state's deadliest swordsman. His territory butts up against their land, making every word feel dangerous. And still he keeps his head, because deep down he knows the timing is finally on their side. Turns out the Magnolia Empire runs on two iron pillars: the sword, handled by Marquis Rainer Baldia, and the shield, run by Marquis Kelvin Grade. And even knowing how crucial those jobs are, he still hesitates, like he's staring down some brutal danger. Standing tall in the hall, noble Norris Tamaska declares to everyone, loud and fearless, there's no alliance better for his people than a marriage into the imperial family. And the whole room crowds in, backing him with burning, unwavering agreement. But there aren't nearly enough people who see things the same way. One sharp-eyed attendee instantly clocks Norris's real plan. He's using that upcoming marriage as a doorway into the Empire's top circles, so he can free Renarat from its vassal chains. And the more he thinks, the darker it gets, because he suspects Norris won't stop there. He might be aiming to seize the whole Empire from the inside. Alone in his own head, he remembers the proud dark elf's bitter wound. Renarat was never treated like an equal. Now that plan clicks as Norris's desperate bid to flip the order of everything, even if it blows up an entire country in the process. Fueled by pure determination, the racist storms into the office and steamrolls the father mid-sentence, then cuts straight to the point. He's sure the father is about to hand Farah, his little sister, over to the Empire as a hostage. The father can only stare, baffled. Where in the world did he even get that idea? But Razes dug in and refused to budge, making it crystal clear he'd heard Norris's warning firsthand, and he was done ignoring it. Even with the fact that Farah is only 6 years old and no country would ever permit a marriage like that, he still snapped back with icy resolve. It doesn't matter, because right now it's the principal and the terrifying threat hanging over them, not his sister's age. Rise's eyes flashed with raw fury. He shot straight at his father, demanding answers, screaming, "Why do we have to go that far?" His dad's cold reply shut every door at once. Those moves are needed to bind the countries together. Because not everything in the world follows clean, simple laws. Sometimes the rules are there to be broken. Then his father hits the real truth. The crown's weight will land on Rise next, and he'll have to learn how to read the situation fast and still make the brutal calls. Overwhelmed by raw emotion, the racist can't take this at all. Still, even with the political logic in front of him, he blurts out that he can't accept the decision. As Razes turns to leave, the father's eyes lock onto him. Then his heart sinks because no matter how many good qualities the prince has, he's still just too young, too easily yanked around by emotions, and that final emotional blow-up only screams how inexperienced he is. Irritation twists across Raz's face, like a fight going on inside his head, but he grinds his teeth and finally agrees to the order to cool off in his room. Then, right before he walks away, he murmurs an apology for his outburst. With a grim face and his eyes on the floor, he trudged through the corridors. Then, bam, he collided with two complete strangers. One lone figure catches his eye and he halts mid-step. Then surprise hits. It's Farah stepping out of her room, something that almost never happens. She beams at him and calls him Nai, that sweet older brother nickname, and tells him she's going to their mother's room because she's been summoned. Farah doesn't even try to hide her curiosity. She leans in and asks what he's doing here. Rise forced a smile, trying to say he was just talking to his dad. Then his dad snapped at him and told him to get a grip, and Farah's jaw dropped as she couldn't believe her own ears, shocked that her father really had the nerve to scold him. The races lock eyes with Farah, and there it is. She looks just like their mother, Alita Sama. Even with her still young years, this girl holds herself with pure dignity and effortless grace, like strict training and relentless daily guidance carved it into her from day one. Cradling a flower with a soft smile, she keeps her victory to herself and silently celebrates. Because to him, Farah was and always will be the biggest reason for pride and pure happiness. The lantern flashes one last goodbye to the races, bows with perfect manners, then slips off to the mother's chambers alongside its guardian. Rise just stood there, staring as his sister walked off in silence, that fierce look flooding his chest with confidence. Then his resolve hardened. Farah will never be forgotten again, not ever, and not a tool for anyone else. Anything. Determination flares in his eyes. He'll risk anything to keep her safe, even if it steals his freedom. Rays clenches his fist, stiffens his face, lifts his head, and swears like his life depends on it. He looks back at everyone who's shaped his road, his allies, his rivals, and especially his sister Farah, and then he declares, teeth set, "I promise I will protect my younger sister, and no power on earth will make him break that vow." Nothing can scare Rid off as he charges toward saving Fari. Determination burns hot in him, and every challenge is just another fight. Memories flooded into him through the magic of recollection, slamming straight into his soul, and the sudden wreck of his past, shards everywhere, crushed him with pure despair and confusion. Meanwhile, he breaks it down. This new magic is a bridge link. Every time he digs up a memory inside his own head, he drains mana just like a pay-per-minute call. Still, curiosity won't shut up. The technique kicks back in, and he can't stop himself from chasing what comes next. He summons the memory image again and demands answers. What did he learn about Takarella's main plot? All while wrestling to not get yanked off course by the harsh moral sermon his inner voice keeps throwing at him. Right now, Rid is doing everything he can just to lock in the storyline of the game Takarella. Deep down, he admits it. He blasted through the game without reading a single line, smashing skip again and again. The addiction was unreal, but his time didn't go to the main story campaign at all. It got swallowed by the extra mode. Desperate to understand, he tried to dig the truth out of his own memory, but help only served him scraps. Vague, torn-up flashes like crumpled paper you can't smooth back into meaning. From it all, he only remembers one thing, the romance in the style of Cinderella, with princesses from different kingdoms as love interests. And one character, probably from Rena's root, was named Raku's, easy to train, easy to use. But because he skipped most of the story, his mind is basically a blank page now. Our main character keeps pushing the limits of memory magic, demanding to know exactly which memories he can reach, and the answer hits with absolute certainty. The hero can only claw back the memories from his past life that he actually *locked onto. Things like internet videos, school textbooks, or anything he studied with real focus. But the fuzzy leftovers, random chats with strangers, ignored ads or coworkers' gripes, slip out of reach, stuck forever in the dark, or they crawl back so slowly and blurry he can barely tell they're real. No matter what hits him, he refuses to quit and digs into his memories to set things right. Slowly, reluctantly, he agrees, and memory jumps in to rebuild the whole truth, like stitching a shredded document back together from torn scraps. Brutal, nearly impossible, but not hopeless. In the middle of brutal training, Reed scrambles to match the coach's lightning-fast moves, but exhaustion slams into him. He drops to the ground, gasping for breath, cursing how inhuman that exercise feels. As Reed snaps back to consciousness, his mentor's sharp gaze locks onto him, and the world shifts. His teacher declares he'll train Reed to harden his body with mana, a word Reed has never even heard before, and the shock hits him so hard he can't hide it. Hyped by the urge to get stronger, the main character asks if imagining his power is enough, until his mentor shuts that down hard, saying the idea is way too fuzzy. If he wants mana to truly fuel his body, he has to fuse two skills: the power to generate mana and a solid grasp of martial arts, meaning he must master how his own body moves. Because knowing how to control mana won't matter if his body won't follow, and the real breakthrough comes when his movements start flowing with the mana itself, turning that connection into something so natural it basically feels automatic. In the dead of night, silence turns into a ritual, something you feel, not overthink. Once you nail it, your breathing steadies, your body almost forgets what fatigue is. The rhythm both gapes in wonder and gets annoyed at how simple it all looks, like people who only know how to think with their muscles. During training, something weird grabs Reed's attention, and he immediately fires off a question to Rubens. Has he been using mana reinforcement the whole time? Rubens only smirks like it's nothing, not even trying to hide it. Shock hits Reed hard. That's why he can't keep the pace. He starts burning out almost instantly, while Rubens keeps going like time means nothing with not a shred of exhaustion. And then it clicks. Everything was about the mana Rubens constantly pumps into himself to keep his strength alive. Crumpled on the floor and finally understanding, Reed realizes he wasn't fighting a person at all. He was up against an energy well that never runs dry, while his own reserves were weak from the very start. Reed's voice rang with pure intent. Once he learns how to boost mana, he's going straight for his mentor and taking the win. His sharp eyes and smug grin said he wasn't backing down for a second, and that battle's spark instantly lit up Rubens too. He shot back, "Let's go," and pitched a crazy new drill. Sprint across the entire training field while constantly steering mana through his own body. For Rubens, it was the ultimate test of athletic grit, brutal, but it worked. And as the challenge hit, Reed fired up mentally, knowing that to beat his mentor, he'd have to go all the way. While training, the main character feels something wild. Fatigue barely bites, and his body suddenly feels light as air. When he thinks it through, he realizes it's all happening because he's been practicing magic with Sandra, and it's finally paying off. And Rubens can't hide his smile as he praises the boy's insane progress, saying that walking the road of dual mastery, magic and martial arts together, is a gift you can't put a price on. Even with the guy's shocking progress catching him off guard, Rubens still lights up and admits it. Reed powered through the training without a single body-strengthening trick. With a humble grin, the main character tosses out a teasing thought. Maybe in 10 years, he'll finally be on his mentor's level. After that lightning-fast sprint, the hero grits his teeth and feels mana roaring through every cell, ready to jump into the next stage of training. Rubens drives the training, sprinting the pace with push-ups, twists, and brutal simple drills, until every muscle screams and mana sharpens every move. Now a fresh target hardens in his mind. Beat Rubens, no excuses, because session after session, the fire only burns hotter as the days grind on in non-stop struggle with an experienced mentor at his side. They don't back down, clash after clash of staring contests. While Reed barrels straight toward the goal, eyes locked on Rubens like he won't miss a beat, absolutely sure he'll reach the bottom today. Rubens, reading every move before it happens, just smirks and dares him again like, "Yeah, you still don't get it." No matter how hard everyone pushes, the boy can't even feel tired. Once he learned how to toughen his own body, training stopped feeling like a chore and turned into pure fun. Something new snaps to life inside him, like the world just shifted without warning, but the harsh truth still crushes his shoulders. They're split by more than skill. Experience, scale, weight, and size carve out a gap he can't cross. His lineage already knows it. Sure, he's getting stronger and inching closer to victory, but beating his opponent is still out of reach, even as the distance shrinks with every single moment. Every time he gets crushed, that loss lights a fire in him, so fierce it only screams victory. No despair, no backing down, each defeat fuels him to swing back even harder. He barrels in fast, using his height to bully his way past Rubens, ready to smash him with anything he can, fist or kick, and exhaustion can't slow him a bit. His eyes stay locked on the target, and deep down, stubborn hope flares up. There's still power left in him, so he's not done. In training, the hero gets knocked down again by Rubens. This time, Rubens grabs him with zero effort and growls that his opponent is already unarmed. Yet the kid keeps refusing to believe it until the very last moment. That kid's stubborn spirit is flat-out addictive. He won't quit even without a sword. Still fired up, he demands another round, but Ruben cuts the training short and tells him, "Fight someone your own size first." The hero's thrown off, a little pissed, and then it hits him. The road to his dream is still miles away, but the journey has already begun. Ruben points out that everything that happened earlier was just a warm-up, and the main character is totally blown away. Then the news hits. Their special mentor has just arrived, and interest surges in his chest as he scrambles to process it. Then it hits him. Training isn't simple at all, and the limit he thought he'd reached is only the warm-up for the real fight. Just as his world tilts, a shadowy figure steps out, throws out a quick apology for being late, and the protagonist's stomach drops. The toughest part is only just starting. Riener's jaw tightens as his majestic father, right out of nowhere, lands in front of him, and the boy can barely hide the rush of excitement. With a stone-still, stern face, Riener calmly fires the question. "So have you already gotten used to the tough training?" Right when it seems like everything's over, his father suddenly shows up, and that snap turns the whole situation into an even harsher trial. The boy freezes at the shock. Right after his fight with Rubens, the next opponent is his own father. Fear hits hard, but something fiercer lights inside him. He has to find out what crazy power his dad holds and just how much he's leveled up since then. Rainer pushes him to go all in on the duel, refusing to hold back a single bit of mana-enhanced body power. For a heartbeat, the young man stalls in indecision. But then he snaps into focus, grips his sword tight, and breaks into a confident grin, fully ready to step into that duel. Fueled by pure grit, the boy slams forward into his father, surging his own body to the edge. Now his strikes hit like lightning, and his strength won't budge. That fierce assault from the young warrior says everything. Look at the fire in his strikes, pure passion and steel confidence. Riener watches, stunned and impressed, as he parries blow after blow without ever taking his eyes off his son. Then the old fighter can't help but think, at this age, not many can command combat skills and control mana like this. Still, something dark flickers inside him, because part of him knows it's only a matter of time before this kid becomes a real danger on the battlefield. Even with fatigue clawing at his body and bruises screaming with every breath, the boy refuses to quit. Gasping, but fueled by pure determination, he hauls himself off the ground and shouts, "This isn't the end yet." Smills, his father, watches him with a quiet, proud spark, loving every ounce of that unbreakable spirit. This time the father takes charge. He snaps into a battle stance and growls, "It's my turn now." The boy tightens his focus, eyes locked, and readies himself to slam into the challenge head-on. Even with the gap in power screaming against him, the boy, wrecked and gasping, refuses to quit. He wrings out every last drop of strength and keeps fighting. That brutal hit slams the boy straight to the floor, and he staggers to his knees, trembling so hard from sheer exhaustion that he can barely stay upright. Still, his father steps in, crowns his effort with praise, and declares he's passed the test, right there with the wooden sword. The young man can't believe it. The duel's raw power and a tiredness he's never felt before snap into place, and he realizes, shocked, that the gap between fighting Rubens and taking on his own father is way bigger than he ever imagined. After he finishes the trial with that wooden sword, the boy's father tosses him a fresh challenge, because he wants more than just effort. The boy hesitates, baffled at first, but then it clicks. This isn't about brute strength at all. It's about steel in the soul, staying steady, staying calm, and pushing forward even when trouble hits. The man nods and says, "This unshakable calm is what decides real fights. Staying cool is what keeps you breathing." Then he tells the boy to learn his own limits first, because up in the air you can already feel the next challenge coming. The father studies the real sword like it's priceless, eyes locked on every scratch, flipping it over to check its condition, and the boy instantly feels something off. His voice trembles as he blurts out what that weapon is for, because the answer doesn't come right away. The man doesn't give a straight answer. He just smirks like he's saying the boy really earned this lesson, but then his face goes dead serious. He orders him to freeze where he stands, hold the exact posture, and keep his eyes forward, no matter what explodes around him. Even as nerves clamp down on him, he doesn't flinch. He swallows fear and accepts the challenge on the spot. Meanwhile, his father snaps into a fighting stance, laser-focused, and warns with a tense, ready-to-begin glare. A terrifying tension creeps into the air like a living weight, trapping the boy in something invisible and way too heavy to ignore. His father's presence slams down with a power the hero has never even come close to feeling. And without a single step, he knows it. Standing in front of him is a force so far beyond his wildest imagination. The main character's father yanks a steel sword from his side, and a brutal aura blasts out. Space warps around him. The air turns thick like it's being crushed, and you can practically feel his real combat power in your bones. At that exact moment, terror slammed into the boy, power rolling off him like a storm, and the air itself felt thick with one brutal truth. This wasn't just strength, it was the will to kill. The boy freezes, because his father's real murderous intent hits like a hammer. His strength snaps, and he crumples to his knees, panting hard as the tremors shake him, barely held back. The shock didn't fade just because he realized his father never meant to hurt him, because the truth was still brutal, real steel, a cold intent to kill. That was the first time he felt it, and those emotions hit like a wall he couldn't break through. Even so, the father nods and admits it. This kid's courage is real, because he's been showing real strength and dignity far beyond his years. A remorse-stricken boy confesses his mistake with his whole heart, and his father stays cool, just saying, "We all begin like this." When a young man finally sits down with his father, he gets the real blueprint for becoming someone great, mastering courage, endurance, and the kind of strength that doesn't crumble when fear shows up. His dad tells him clearly, don't run from it and don't bury it. Face it, accept it, and learn how to live with that feeling right beside you. Because when the real fight starts, it's that stubborn determination that decides who survives. In the boy's eyes, determination flared bright, and with renewed fire in his chest, doubt had nowhere to hide. He took the challenge head-on, chin up, and a burning need to get stronger surged through him. With a grin, Rubens points out that Riener's methods are wildly different from anything he'd ever teach from his own seat. Yet he still throws his wholehearted support behind the kid, wishing him nothing but success. Riener, all grit and confidence, fires a warning. The next attack is coming, no question. He tells the boy, "Don't you dare look away. Watch every single move I make." The next strike gets folded straight into training, and the main character has to take it without flinching. Because his father comes in again, whipping the sword around in a blur, and his son slams right into that attack with zero hesitation. The blade looks so real it feels like it could slice right through flesh. Then cold fear hits him and his whole body starts to shake. But the boy knows the truth. This trial isn't optional. If he wants to live through a real battlefield, he has to learn to stand up to this kind of pressure, right now. Cold terror claws at his insides, but he refuses to shatter. His eyes stay locked on his father's sword. Fear makes his body tremble, yet he won't dare shut them, and with iron focus he tracks every single swing like he's counting seconds. This is the only path to real understanding. He refuses to shut his eyes, and he stares straight at the arc his father's sword is carving through the air. The boy steadied his thoughts without ever pulling his eyes away, even as exhaustion crashed down and his breath came in frantic bursts. He stayed locked in. His father watched him dig in and praised him, saying he was already starting to get used to the exercise. Right as the boy finally exhales in relief, a brand new challenge slams onto the stage. He's shocked the ride isn't over yet, clenches his fists, and fires back with pure determination, ready to charge ahead. They've declared this trial begins now. Rid has to cross the boundary and get to Rubens, fast. And as his father clamps a sword in his grip, a terrifying warning hits. He'll do whatever it takes to stop him. With Rubens' words of support lighting a fire under him, the boy straightens his spine and takes the challenge head-on, knowing full well he'll have to fight to keep up with his father's brutal attacks. Then steels himself and gears up to prove what he's got. The boy shoots forward without hesitation, and his father snaps into action at lightning speed. With a sharp snap of motion, he steps in and blocks the guy's path, making him dodge on pure instinct. Because the strike lands so fast the guy can barely react, and in that second he realizes he just massively underestimated this duel. The boy shakes off the last hit, locks eyes with his father, who's just calmly waiting, and even with his exhaustion screaming, a spark of hope lights up. This time it might all flip for the better. His body has started to move with the fight's tempo, and the hunger to win only grows stronger every second. Determination burns in his chest as he vows to himself. One day, he'll outshine his father's sword skills. So yeah, he pushes forward again, one more step, right into the next moment. The second the boy spots Rubens, pure joy lights up his face like a flare, and the two of them burst into excited shouts, celebrating the surprise reunion. With wild devotion, she lunges into her friend's arms, proving their bond is unbreakable. Tears instantly gather in Rubens' eyes as he emotionally welcomes the boy who finally reaches him, while the main character panics at just how brutal the training is compared to his father's cold, focused fencing mastery. Rainer watches, grins, declares the session over, and vows he'll join the training more often starting now. Rainer ruthlessly declares that every training session from here on out is going to be brutal, while the guys stand there, completely stunned. Rubens watches it all with a sly little smile, realizing Rainer has always been trying to prove, through training, every single day, that he's proud and happy to work with his son. And when the boy finally clicks, it hits him like a revelation. Even the strict dads are still full of love, they just show it their own way. Little Mel darts up to her older brother, calling him out with pure excitement, and he whips around, fully caught off guard, staring in shock at her sudden rush as one of the women immediately blurts, "What happened?" Mel closes in with zero hesitation, lips pursed, and an insulting grimace twisting her face. His eyes betrayed sharp anxiety. Something was definitely eating at him. Mel suddenly bursts forward, slams his father's hands with a desperate strike, and explodes with accusations that he's been bullying his brother. And the hate-filled roar is so loud everyone freezes in stunned shock. The maid shoots out an apology, saying Melody demanded to see her brother even while they were practicing. She just wanted the girl to hear Rubens' thoughts about the boy covered in scratches. But Melody clenches her stubborn pout, and through choking tears, keeps repeating that she hates him. With a grin blazing on her face, Mel yanks her brother forward and happily announces the training session is over. Just minutes ago she was furious, but now she's practically bursting with excitement. Rid gives her a soft, tender smile, but inside he knows Mel is still furious at their father. Still, she keeps proving she's a caring sister even though she doesn't see the full picture. Those thoughts drag Rid straight back to their strict upbringing, where every hard rule was really a desperate worry for him and a hope to steer him right. Still, Mel doesn't budge. She stands her ground and boldly declares that she hates her father. A few days dragged by and Reed's father still couldn't shake the sting of bitter regret. He'd actually believed Melody's hatred was real, and now it haunted him, and to his own shock. Suddenly she bursts through the doorway, slips inside, and apologizes for the nasty thing she once said, how she claimed she hated him. Mel's father can't stop the tears from spilling as her sincerity hits him hard, and everyone around them calls it a real feat, no doubt about it.